What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Mid-Level Media channel for Collectors of the World. This is a new series on the channel. I am replacing World's Biggest Collectors with Collectors of the World for one simple reason, and that is when I invite people on to World's Biggest Collectors, the first question I always get is my collection big enough to be on that show? And I always respond back, it's not really so much about the size of the collection, it's about the passion of the collector. So I want to get rid of the confusion. The people that I have on the show may not necessarily be the biggest collectors in the world. So we're simply going to call this show now Collectors of the World. Whether or not I'm going to just continue on with the numbering system, call this episode 59 or go all the way back to episode 1, I'm not exactly sure yet, but I've got a pretty damn cool interview for you guys today. Regardless, we're going to be talking to Daniel over at the Cobwebs channel just about his collection, his collecting habits, when he started collecting. We're going to dig into all the usual stuff, guys, get into a variety of physical media topics. We're going to talk about him as a content creator as well. Daniel has some of the best content I've seen on YouTube. He does a lot of deep cut content about gothic horror films, about just all kinds of horror films. He's doing stuff that nobody else on YouTube is doing. So I highly recommend you go subscribe to his channel. Very underrated channel. Go check him out. I will link all of his stuff down below in the description. So it was a blast, an absolute blast talking with Daniel. Got into a lot of stuff. I'm excited to share it with you guys. Collectors of the World, episode 59 or episode 1 with Daniel of the Cobweb channel. Enjoy. All right, what is up, everybody? I'm here with the man, the legend, the myth, the Cobwebs channel for an interview about him and his collecting habits. And this is going to be called something different, but this is pretty much the same kind of show as World's Biggest Collectors. But Daniel, I'm excited to have you on for this experimental show and interview today. How are you feeling? How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks a lot for having me. I'm genuinely a huge fan of you and of the channel, so I'm
That
very, very
blows
excited to
my
be here.
mind whenever anybody says that. I don't understand it.
Well, let
I'm
me
a
tell you a
fan of
couple.
you, man. You have a great channel.
Oh, thanks, dude. I appreciate it. One thing I love about you is you post your videos pretty much always at 4 o'clock, and that's when I get off work. So I'm usually listening to mid-level media like on my commute home. It works out great.
You know, I deliberately thought about that when I was deciding on my posting time because I'm like, you know what? I want to do the time slot where everybody's getting out of work, 5:30. So that's what I do every day. A lot of
It
people
works.
post at like 7 a.m., 10 a.m. I've done that before. It just doesn't seem to do as well. I don't
Interesting.
know. But I've been doing the 5 o'clock time slot forever now.
Yeah, I've always been a morning poster, and I haven't experimented. I think because I can't resist just getting it out there. Like it's hard to
Yeah.
wait.
And that works for me because I wake up in the morning and I'm taking my dog outside. And that's when I usually pop on the Cobwebs channel.
There you
So,
go. Perfect.
but Daniel, man, how are you doing today? I appreciate you coming on. Daniel has a great channel, guys. I will be linking his channel down below in the description. You talk about a variety of things on your channel, which I definitely appreciate. You dive into the classic stuff, the obscure stuff, the gothic horror is really your niche. It feels like that you've kind of fallen into and developed for yourself over there on your channel. But if you can, do you want to explain to everybody, probably better than I can, what the Cobwebs channel is and why they should subscribe?
Yeah, sure. It's evolved a little bit. In the beginning, it was very much just like classic film focused, like pre 1980s, maybe more pre 1970s kind of stuff. And it was really because I noticed that like if you want to watch really fun YouTube videos that are like fun YouTube personalities talk about movies, and you want to hear about modern stuff, Christopher Nolan, Halloween, the MCU, there's almost like
Them
endless
channels are a
options.
dime a dozen.
Well, I like those channels too, but I'm just saying there's like so much of it. And I thought there's very little of that for talking about really old movies. If you're not going to be like really academic, which is never what I wanted to do. So I was like kind of trying to fill that void of talking about really old movies, like film history, but do it in like a fun way and like a non kind of film school kind of a way. And over time it's evolved. And I would say it's almost entirely a horror focused channel. Which happened for a couple of reasons. One, I found that the horror stuff just kind of resonated with people the most, which makes sense because that's honestly where I have the most knowledge.
Yeah.
But also, I used to be a more horror focused movie fan, and then I kind of branched out. And now I've kind of branched back in to where like mostly what I want to watch these days is horror movies. So it's worked out for me
And
too.
how's that working for you? Do you find that is easier for you? Because I'll be honest, like sometimes I get so overwhelmed because I feel like, especially in this space, talking about physical media and all the different physical media releases I talk about, that I need to be an expert in every different type of movie. And it becomes very overwhelming to me at times because it's like, oh, I haven't watched enough classics this month. I haven't watched enough dramas. I haven't watched enough musicals, horror films, comedies. I feel like I have to be all over the place. And sometimes I feel like I would be a lot less stressed out if I did just focus on one genre.
Well, I mean, I do think you're very focused because you're so focused on the world of physical media. So honestly,
Yeah.
like if somebody wants to watch a channel about physical media coverage, news, information, I mean, honestly, I do think you're the best in the business. I mean, it does
Wow.
feel like a very focused channel on exactly that, and you cover so
Yeah.
much, which I think is awesome. For me, it's been very natural because like sometimes I feel like I should branch out more, and I think like, well, I should do a video on this topic that's not horror.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, but then I've got to like spend a week watching all of these movies, and I really just want to keep watching horror movies. It's been a weird thing where like I've just felt
Yeah.
focused.
Well, there are times where it's like, do I sit down and watch this 2.5 hour, period piece that was made in 1955, or do I watch some stupid schlocky horror slasher from Vinegar Syndrome? And I just want to watch the horror slasher sometimes, but I know I have to watch this specific release because I need to talk about it for whatever reason on the channel.
Yeah,
Um,
that's always been a struggle for me is the like I have to watch this. Like I always like feel,
yeah,
it always feels a little uncomfortable where I'm like, but I really want to watch this over here. Even though most of the time when I do watch like the 2.5 hour movie from 1955, it's like usually great. And I'm like, well, that was
yeah, you end up
fantastic. I'm
enjoying
glad
it.
I did that. But it's almost hard to take that first step sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, the perfect example for me is when I had to watch, or I wanted to watch it, but I had to watch The Color Purple on 4K. I wanted to do a review for it. And I'm like, God, I just really don't feel like watching this movie. And then by the time I got to the end, I was like, this is one of the best movies I've ever seen in my life. I loved it. Um, so it does work out like that sometimes for sure.
Yeah, I often say like the great movies, the classic movies, they're usually the classic movies for a reason. Like we
Yeah,
kind
they
of
stand the
resist that,
test
but
of
like
time already.
they
Yeah,
usually are pretty darn good. That's usually why they're big classics, but sometimes we
yeah,
resist that and we're like, it's just this thing that our grandfathers like. And then we realize like our grandfathers have pretty good taste, you
yeah.
know?
Or the recent James Cameron 4Ks. I was looking forward to watching True Lies, and I was looking forward to watching Aliens, but I just wasn't looking forward to watching The Abyss for whatever reason. Um, and I didn't watch the 3 hour cut, and everybody gave me a bunch of crap for that when I reviewed it. I was like, I just don't have time to do the 3 hour cut. Let me do the 2 hour and 20. Plus, I don't know how you feel about this, but I like watching the theatrical cut. If I'm watching a movie for the first time, I want to see how it was originally intended and how it came out in the theaters. I don't want to jump into the corrected cut or whatever they added to it or any. I want the context. Like if I'm going to enjoy the director's cut, I got to know how it started. So I feel like I had to watch that theatrical cut first. But
I'm
um,
exactly the same way. Yeah. Like when
yeah,
I just watched my Vinegar Syndrome 4K of Night Screams, and I was a little undecided of whether to watch the theatrical first or watch the because I don't know if
yeah.
you know very much about this, but
I
basically
didn't pick
there's
that. I
another.
wish I would have picked that up. I didn't. That was like one that came out last year. I think around the time Blade in the Dark came out.
It's
But
probably still available. It's good.
yeah,
I
I
liked
don't
it,
think
but
it has a
there's
slip anymore, so it's not worth getting.
oh well, there's no point in filmmaking anymore, honestly.
Yeah, pretty much.
But yeah, I was undecided whether to watch the theatrical, which cuts in a bunch of extra scenes from other movies and from adult films because the producers didn't think it was long enough, or watch the director's cut that's like the real movie. But then I realized the theatrical was the only one on 4K. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to watch that. And because
They
it's,
get you with that sometimes.
yeah, and because it's clips from other movies, you can very easily tell what's added. So that's a case where you can feel like, I feel like I know what the director's cut is at that point. But yeah, I go theatrical pretty much all the time too.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's the way to go. So yeah, with that particular release, it was either I just pick one or the other, and I pick the shorter one, or I spend 6 hours watching both cuts, which at this point in my life, I just don't have time to do.
No.
So I
I
made
mean,
a choice.
I have one kid and you have like more
Yeah,
than that, so I
I made a
understand.
choice. I chose theatrical, and everybody gave me hell for it. I told you to go director's cut. But I enjoyed The Abyss. It was a good movie. I can't say that I loved the movie, but I did enjoy it. I did enjoy it. But let's go back to Cobwebs channel. Everybody subscribe. Daniel, you have some of the best produced content that I have ever seen on YouTube.
Oh,
Okay, and I
thank
watched a
you.
lot of YouTube. Now, I think that you seriously have some of the best production value. I really enjoy watching your videos a lot, and your rankings. I love rankings. I don't do a ton of them myself, but I love watching them. I think those are top notch for sure.
Thanks, dude. Yeah, I
And
enjoy them. I Sorry,
they
go
and
ahead.
you always have some pretty wild takes in there that I'll be like, "Oh my
Yeah.
goodness, he has that one that high, huh?" But it's always interesting, and you always explain yourself very well why you put it up there. So I appreciate that for sure, and you always point out like hidden gems that I don't even know about as well. So I would definitely encourage everybody to go subscribe to Daniel's channel. You have great content and do a great job, man. Do a
I
great job.
appreciate that. Means a
But
lot.
let's start off with your collecting history. I want to know where it all started for you as a collector. Is this something that's developed recently in the past 5 years or so? Is this something you've done pretty much your entire life?
Pretty much my entire life. I mean, having movies physically was important to me ever since I was a little kid. And honestly, like, I mean, I was a kid in the late 90s, early 2000s for the most part. And you had to have physical media in those days if you wanted to watch a
Yeah.
specific movie. And pretty much every Christmas, every birthday that I can remember through my whole life, I always got some movies. Like one of my favorite Christmases in my memory is when my parents gave me a bunch of Universal Monsters VHSs, and me and my family spent Christmas Day watching Universal Monsters movies, and it was awesome.
Nice.
And then I remember like one birthday where it was like such a huge deal that I got Jaws on DVD because my mom would not let me watch Jaws because she saw Jaws in the theater when she was 7 and it like traumatized her. So she like would not let me have it. And then I
Yeah.
finally got it and it was like a huge deal. So it was always a big deal to me to have movies. I mean, I remember like when my siblings and I were going to watch a movie at night, we would like grab a bunch of DVDs or VHSs and lay them out on the floor and then start eliminating ones and trying to pick them. So, like having a physical copy has always been important. But I would say I was even a more obsessive collector as a kid when it came to action figures. I was
Okay.
super into like Marvel action figures, Batman and Star Wars and Universal Monsters.
Now, did you get them out of the box and play with them, or did you try to keep them in? Did you have that mindset?
Oh, no, no, no. Out of the box.
Out of the
Out of the
box,
box.
okay.
Like me and
I
my
had a lot of
brother, we
action figures
all
too,
the time.
and I still have them. They're in a tote in my closet over
Me
there, but
too.
they are
Yeah.
completely just damaged and
They're
tore
wrecked.
up
Yeah.
beyond repair. I have the Technodrome from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which is I don't know if you
Okay.
watch Turtles, but it's this big rectangular, like underground driller machine thing that Shredder and Krang were in, and it's got a big eyeball on the top. That thing
Uh-huh.
is tore to hell, tore to hell. I might try to sell it though. Maybe some collector out there will be like, I can fix that up. I don't know.
Maybe. You never know.
I don't know. But yeah, man, that's pretty cool. I always say that when it comes to collecting in like the '90s and 2000, we weren't. I didn't consider myself a collector. That's just what we did. Like
Oh,
if
yeah.
you loved the movie, you wanted to own it because you wanted to be able to watch it whenever you wanted to watch it. And rewatch value was definitely something that was very important back in the day because we didn't have all these streaming services with 100,000 movies and TV shows to watch all the time.
Oh, yeah. Like
But
when I was a kid, we would just wear out certain tapes, DVDs, rewatch them over and over again. I almost kind of miss that because I don't rewatch movies a lot these days because like my brain is always full of like so many movies I know I need to see.
yeah, a
So I'm just
lot of that
constantly
is we
seeking
just
out new
don't have the
stuff.
time, and we're just trying to discover so many
Exactly.
different types of films. I was a really weird kid. I used to the VHS tapes. Like I would wake up in the morning and I would line the VHS tapes like a train, and they would go to my TV, and I would pick up the first one, and I would put it in, and then I would move all the tapes up, and I would like feed them into the VHS. I would spend the entire day watching like movies. I remember like the classic Disney animated stuff,
Oh, yeah.
Ninja Turtles, and all that. I don't know why that just kind of popped in my head as a vivid memory from my childhood. But you started early with the classic monster movies, the horror movies. How old were you when you started watching that kind of stuff?
As old as young as I can remember. The first movie I can remember being really obsessed with was Dracula with Bela Lugosi. I was super obsessed with that when I was a little kid. Like the trajectory of my fandom, I feel like it went like Universal Monsters and Dracula, particularly, then Batman, and then just kind of went on from there.
Yeah,
But yeah, I grew up watching a lot of like really old stuff, like from the 30s and 40s. Not even just that, but other stuff too, because of my parents. They just showed us a lot of stuff like that. So I hear from certain people, like my age and stuff that like can't get into like the black and white stuff because the acting style is different and it's black and white. They're not used to that. And I just never had to get used to it because it's just been with me
yeah.
ever since I can remember.
I imagine that's definitely helped with your, how you watch movies like that. I'm sure that you can appreciate those far better than other people that didn't grow up with them. Do you feel that to be the case? That you
I
have a
think
certain
so because
appreciation for them because that's what you grew up with?
yeah, I mean, I like them more. So, I mean, I know a
Yeah,
lot of people, they'll like watch older films and like sometimes they'll like certain ones, but it's kind of hard to get into. And it's very easy for me. Like there are certain kind of movies that, have been harder for me to get into because I'm not used to them. But that's just not one. So I can like put on a movie from the 1940s and it feels like a comfort,
yeah.
you know.
Because I'd say up until, I don't know, maybe 7 or 8 years ago, like I rarely would watch a film from like the 40s or the 30s. I didn't even see Dracula until the 4Ks came out.
Hmm.
Actually, no, I think it was a little bit before that. I think I found the Blu-ray and watched it. So I didn't watch a lot of the Universal monster movies and all that kind of stuff when I was a kid. So I like them. I like those movies, and I watched that the one from Vinegar Syndrome that just came out, the horrible Doctor Hitchcock. I like that
Oh
movie as
yeah,
well. They're just movies that I don't like gravitate towards.
sure.
Like they're almost movies that I know I'm gonna like it, but they're not ones that I'm like itching to jump into.
I understand there's plenty of
Um,
kinds of movies I don't gravitate to. We all have them.
But it's like every time I watch one of those type of movies, like a movie from the 40s or the 50s, I'm like, why am I not watching this stuff all the time? Because it's great. Like I finally watched the Criterion title, Double Indemnity. I'd
Oh,
never
hell
seen that
yeah.
movie before. And I was like, this movie is freaking awesome. And it was made in the 40s. And it's like, this is the template for everything that came after this, like as far as like a Hollywood noir thriller. Like you can see the DNA from everything
Oh yeah, there's so
that
many
came from
like
that movie.
erotic thrillers from the 80s and 90s that are
It's
basically
they're all
double
the
indemnity
same. Like,
remakes.
and I watched Red Rock West, and it's like they're
Oh
all the
yeah.
same.
I
It's
love that
like
movie.
two guys, and it's a woman in the middle
Femme
that's
Fatale.
playing them both. And it's like that. That started with Double Indemnity, or maybe there
Yeah,
was something before. There's always something before it, but
sure.
um, I loved it. And then I jumped into the movie Detour after that,
Oh, I love that too.
and that was
That's a
freaking
mean
awesome.
movie.
Yeah, because there was so much to that movie that I was thinking about for like a day after. And it's only like an hour long too,
Yeah.
which is the perfect length. I wish at this point in my life, I wish every single movie was like an hour and 15 minutes. Get in, get out, tell your story, and be done with it. Quit dragging it out for Christ's sake. Um, but how did so you've been collecting all your life? So how did it transition? When did it start to transition to what it is now? Because I imagine you said you don't have a huge collection, but I'm looking behind you right there. You got quite a few titles back there. That's a pretty good sizable collection.
I
When did you
counted
start
fairly
collecting?
recently. It's a little over 1,200.
A little over 12. That's a very respectable number. Very
Oh, well,
respectable
thank
number.
you.
I'm
Coming
sure you
from you,
got
it means
some
a
out.
lot.
I'm sure you got some out of frame as well. I mean, look, man, like 5 or 6 years ago, I had maybe 200 in my collection. I've grown all this very, very quickly.
Mhm.
I used to just only get the movies that I liked a lot, and then I started branching out, exploring stuff. And a lot of that started
Mhm.
with the boutique labels. So when did you start getting into those type of titles, discovering those different labels?
Sure, yeah, it was a little after high school, maybe 18, 20. I gave into the Blu-ray thing because, like, for a while, I was like, "I can't tell the difference between DVD and Blu-ray," and I honestly, I think it's because I had a really crappy TV at the time, but I remember my first Blu-ray was Die Hard, and I started getting into Blu-rays. And there was a local store in my town. It's still there. It's called Entertain Mart, and they sell a lot of movies. And they're like the only place that sells boutique stuff in person. So I found The Howling, the Scream Factory Blu-ray for The Howling there. And I never seen The Howling because for as much as I grew up on like Universal Monsters, Hammer horror, I did not grow up on 80s horror. So that's something that I
Yeah.
discovered as an adult. But I just thought that the original cover art looked so cool, like the Scream Factory art. I was like, what is this? And I took a chance and I bought it. Really enjoyed it. And like most people, Scream Factory was the first boutique label that I got into, and Scream Factory became a vehicle through which I
It was the
discovered a
most
lot of 80s
accessible, you
horror.
know, you
Oh
would
yeah.
find it at Walmart back in the day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like not long after that, I got, I got The Fog, and I got Halloween 2 and 3, and just started collecting those. And I really enjoyed collecting, but I did not have very much money because I was like, after high
Yeah.
school, I took a couple of years off from high school, and then I went to college, and I collected as I could, but it wasn't that much. And then I left college and I got a adult job like 5 years ago. And then it just started growing from there. Now that I finally had more expendable income, and I got really, got into Blu-ray YouTubers and stuff. Discovered more things through there. Got really into podcasts. Discovered a lot of movies through podcasts as well.
Yeah.
And it just for the last few years, it's just kind of blown up for sure.
That's how it happens, man.
Yeah.
You open up all those doors and all those gates, and yeah, that's how it happened for me because when my daughter was first born, it was back in 2014. My wife was a stay-at-home mom for a few years, so I was the only income. So I was not. I had my DVD collection from when I was a teenager, my 20s, and I didn't jump into Blu-ray until probably 2016, 2017 when 4K really got started. When she went back to work and I got a different job making a little bit more money. So I get it. You buy within your means. I always try to tell people that. I was like, don't ever use me or this person as the example because you don't know what kind of financial situation they're in versus what you're in. Buy what you can and don't feel bad about not being able to buy what you can or what
Yeah,
you
don't go
want.
into debt over movies.
No, do
Do not do
not.
it.
Don't do it because it'll only make you not enjoy the things that you're buying at the end of
That's
the day.
true.
Um, okay, let's see. I want to start with you as a content creator. So the Cobwebs channel, it started. What when you say it started? Probably a couple of years ago.
Yeah, about that. But I started the Cobwebs podcast in 2019, and I did that for a long time. And then I tried jumping into YouTube more like 3 years ago, I think, but it was very short
Oh, so
lived.
you had the idea for Cobwebs before you started the channel.
Yeah, I had the Cobwebs podcast, which I started specifically to talk about gothic horror, like Hammer horror and stuff. Because I listened to a lot of horror podcasts, and I just noticed nobody ever talked about Hammer, and I was starting to get really into it. And I was like, man, like there's like no discussion about these.
Yeah,
So I decided like, well, I'll just try doing it myself, and I jumped into it, and it was really fun. And I honestly like I found community of like other podcasters, and we would like podcast on each other's shows, and it was really great. But then about 3 years ago, yeah, I decided to expand into the YouTube channel. And I only did like under 10 videos and I gave up. I don't remember why I gave up. I don't think it was like a big decision. I just kind of fell off of it. And then I tried getting back into it about a year and a half ago. And I posted a video on my top 10 classic film noir movies. And out of nowhere, that video just kind of blew up. And I was like, what? Like, how did this happen? Like, I've been a dead channel for so long. And that was kind of the motivation I needed to keep going. And the YouTube channel
yeah.
started doing pretty well. And I was really enjoying it. And I was starting to feel kind of burned out on podcasting. So I eventually just shut down the podcast and focused just on the YouTube channel.
Do you find the video creation to be a little bit more rewarding or allow you to be more creative with what you're putting out?
Yeah, I think more creative is a big thing because like when you're podcasting, basically what I was doing is I was having conversations with other people and we would like deep dive into a movie and such. And that's rewarding for sure because I got to connect with a lot of people and like make friends with a lot of people. But yeah, I like making thumbnails. I like designing my background. I like editing and stuff. Like the whole creative process is just a little bit more and is more interesting for me. And I also like that I could talk about whatever I wanted, because like if I want to talk about something on the podcast, I'd have to find someone else who's interested in talking about it with me. Because I didn't really do solo podcasts. So, but I like that I can just like choose my own direction and just do that. And I like more interaction with an audience, because with podcasting, I mean, even if you're a big podcast, you just don't hear from people because there's no comment section. So unless somebody @s you on Twitter or DMs you on Instagram or something, you barely ever hear from anyone. And I really like hearing from people in the comment section and talking back and forth with people. That's been a rewarding part as well.
Yeah, I did podcasting very briefly, and it was around the same time I was starting up the channel. I did it with another content creator on YouTube for probably about 6 months or so.
I
When,
didn't know that.
yeah, this was like right when the pandemic started. I think is when
Right.
that was.
Everybody's content creation jumped up at that point.
So it got to a point where it was just a little bit too hectic and stressful to do both. So I had to bow out of the podcast and just focus a little bit more on the channel.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I get it, and it was just like, all right, well, what's the numbers? What does it look like? Are there any comments? And it was just so hard to get any kind of a gauge on how it was doing or the
Yeah.
engagement. So I'll be honest, that's why I've been so reluctant to ever, because some people have asked me to put like stuff like this up on like Spotify or Apple Podcasts or whatever the heck it is, and I'm just reluctant to do it because I'm like, I don't know what the point is. I don't feel like I'll be able to gauge like how it's doing or get any kind of feedback from it at all. But I know it's just me being stubborn. I should just throw it up there because what's the harm at the end of the day? Still going up on YouTube as well, but to me, it's just an extra hassle.
I don't know. I would say you're doing just fine as you are. So
Yeah, and I've only had like a few people really ask me to do that anyway, but yeah, man, you do a great job with your channel for sure, and your content is great, and you've grown a lot since you've started as well. You want to talk about that and just how, like, what was the moment that you felt that you were just really taking off as a channel?
sure. Yeah. Yeah, the channel was doing pretty well. Like I kind of got a boost from that film noir video. And that's also when I discovered that ranking lists were, I guess I was pretty good at ranking lists, and those always did the best for me. So I started doing more of those. And the first video I had that like really exploded was I did a video on a very specific topic, my top 15 classic witch movies.
Yeah, I've
Because
seen that video.
I just thought about like, what are the witch movies? Because everyone knows like witches are an icon of horror, but like it's not as obvious as like vampire movies or werewolf movies. Like, what are the witch movies besides like Blair Witch and Robert Eggers' The Witch?
Yeah,
So I kind of dived into it, and I focused on pre the 1980s, so 70s and back, and I just watched a ton of them, and I really had a good time. And then I just made a video ranking my top 15, and the video like exploded, and it's still my biggest video. It has over 100,000 views, and that was like a huge growth
yeah,
boost. And then as I tried doing more ranking videos, they also didn't do that well, but did pretty well. And I remember one month, I think it was last September, because I hit a big spike around Halloween season, which makes sense. And it was in September. I think it was that I hit 2,000 subscribers, and I was like, wow, this is a big deal. I should do something to celebrate. And then it just kept going, and I was like, wait, maybe I shouldn't celebrate yet. Let me see what happens. And then it hit 3,000 subscribers,
that's
and I
great.
waited a little more, and then it hit 4,000. And that was all in September. And I was like, whoa, like what is going on? And that's when I like then did like a celebration live stream, which was like, this is
Dude,
pretty
I'll be
cool.
honest. I
Thanks,
was trying to
everybody.
get you on here as quick as possible because I feel like in a couple years you're going to be like 200,000, and you ain't going to be going on nobody's channel anymore.
I
Like,
think my topics are
guys,
too
come on
niche. I
now.
don't think that's going to happen.
I've got 200,000 subscribers. I'm not going on that channel. Come on.
Maybe if
I
I
had to
do an
get you on here quick.
MCU ranking list, but I don't really see that happening anytime soon.
You know what's funny is if you did an MCU ranking list, it would probably flop.
No, it
It
would.
probably,
Yeah, for sure.
because for one, that's not your niche that you've grown, and for another, there's like 1,000 of those or
Yeah.
2,000 of those. The stuff that you're doing, like nobody else is doing, and when you can find something like that's when you can really start taking off
Yeah,
on
that is what
YouTube,
I try to do for the most part. Because I
and not
I
just
have
doing it, but
noticed.
doing it as well as you're
Oh, well,
doing it.
thanks, man.
Also,
I appreciate
yeah,
that. Yeah,
that's
I
definitely
have
important.
noticed with YouTube, if you post a video that people aren't really expecting you to post, they will probably not click on it. And that's kind of an
Yeah.
interesting thing to learn.
It is. It is. And YouTube as well. Like if you post a video that YouTube isn't expecting you to post, they will not push that.
Yeah,
You know,
that's true.
one that they don't people don't, I don't know how YouTube knows what the hell kind of video you're posting, but they know. They're
I
smart
do.
people over there. Smart people.
Right. People, the bots.
People, the bots. I don't think anybody's real in YouTube at all.
I'm not sure if you're real, to be honest.
I'm not. I'm a figment of everybody's imagination. I'm just a psychotic person that gets on here and talks about Blu-rays every day. Yeah, the witch video. It's interesting what you said about witches because it is something that isn't so overt. Like when you're watching a movie, it's like I'm watching a witch movie, unless I'm watching a movie called The Witch, which is probably my favorite movie of the entire like 21st century. I love that movie.
Good choice.
I think that witch movies are probably my favorites. My favorite type of monster movie, to be
That's
honest.
awesome.
I love every witch movie I see because you can lump so many different movies that I love in that category. Like Suspiria is pretty much a witch movie. I don't know if you would classify Rosemary's Baby as a witch movie, but I feel like it's in that realm.
That's a funny one that you mentioned that because I didn't think of it that way.
Cult
I always thought it was
witch?
just a satanic cult movie. And then the most common
There's
comments I
always
got in that
witches
witch
involved in
video,
that, right?
it is, but I didn't realize that. So I got so many comments
Yeah,
that were like,
it's
"Where's
hard to figure
Rosemary's
out.
Baby?" So I rewatched Rosemary's Baby, and they're called witches, and I was like, "Damn it! I wish I
Yeah,
had remembered
I
that."
completely forgot about that. But yeah, they're all witches or something she sees
Yeah, she gets like
in the book.
the book of witchcraft or
Yeah, I
whatever.
completely forgot about it. Yeah, it is a witch movie. It is.
Yeah, so that's an eternal mistake on my most popular video. Oh well.
But yeah, those movies freak me out. Like I tend to like horror movies that actually scare me. Like if you can actually
Hmm.
get under my skin, then you become one of my favorite horror movies. That's the kind of stuff that I like. I like a good horror comedy. I do. I like to have fun. I like the stupid slashers, but those don't ever become like my favorite horror movies. I like the stuff that unsettles me and unnerves me, and shakes me to my core.
Do you like Lords of Salem?
I haven't seen it.
Oh, you should. That's one of my favorite witch movies. And if you
I
just
was
want to
done
see
with
like,
Rob Zombie after Halloween 2, which I actually kind of
oh,
like
okay.
now. I actually kind
It's
of
my
like that movie.
favorite. Lords of Salem's my favorite Rob Zombie movie. And if you
Need to
just want to
watch it.
see like
It's in the collection back there.
classic creepy witch like visual iconography, like Lords of Salem will give it to you more than almost any other movie.
Yeah, I bought it. God, that was probably. I feel like I've had Lords of Salem in the collection since I've had 20 Blu-rays. It's been here. I don't know why I watched it. I think I just had heard about it that it was good, and I was like, I'm gonna buy Lords of Salem. I think it was cheap or something on Amazon.
Hmm.
And I haven't watched it. Still haven't watched it. It might still be in the plastic, to be honest.
Well, it's not on
It's
4K, so it's
crazy.
not worth your time.
It's not. I've been waiting for it to come to 4K. That's what I've been waiting on this whole time. Nice steel book. I love that. Did you get that House of a Thousand Corpses box that came out last year
No,
from
I just have a
Lionsgate?
normal Blu-ray of it.
I was hoping that they would do all of his films like that because it was
That
such
would
a
be cool.
great box set. But let's get into let's go back to collecting.
Cool.
Talk about what type of collector you are. Are you somebody that likes? Are you somebody that has to collect everything in a specific label? Are you more specific movie focused? Are you into numbered spines? Do you like the big box sets? Do you collect steel books? What kind of collector are you?
Sure.
What drives you? What as a collector?
What drives me?
What
That's a good way to
drives your
put it.
collecting habits?
I
I
like it.
guess is what I'm asking.
Okay.
I
So
got there eventually.
you did, and I respect it. I almost entirely at this point collect boutique label stuff of older movies. I do buy like newer movies that I love occasionally. Honestly, usually only horror because that tends to be the only newer movies I rewatch. But I pretty much I do a lot of blind buying. I would say I do the most blind buying of anything because I just like buying movies in order to check them out. Like that's my favorite thing. I feel a lot less motivated to buy a movie I already know that I love, even if I don't have it yet. So I'm a
Yeah.
big blind buyer. I collect on a budget as much as I can. I really like to shop sales. So I'm very rarely a day one purchaser. And when I realized that, that was one reason that like I started making my channel a little less physical media focused. I still talk a lot of physical media, but I realized that like I'm not going to buy stuff day one, pay full price, and then get a review out. So maybe I should back off of that. So I love sales. So like I love the Kino Lorber sale. I love buying things for $10 a piece.
Those
I
sales are
love
dangerous, man.
Oh, they're great.
Dangerous.
I just bought so much recently. And then I watched your video on recommendations and I was like, I want to buy all of those. Like, I think I need to put in another order. Like, all of those sound great. And they're
Don't
all
do
like
it.
$10 or less.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm a bad influence.
And when you talked about Up the Creek, I was like, 80s comedy for $10? I want to get that.
That was actually pretty fun. I watched that one morning like a year ago or something.
That seems like a good morning watch. I love a good 80s comedy.
Yeah, that was a good. It wasn't up there with like the greats, but it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
I don't collect steel books. I will buy them occasionally, usually if that's the only option. But I don't care about steel books, and they're almost always more expensive. So I pretty much just stay away from them.
You want to know something? I'm going to be
Yes, I
honest
do.
with you right here. I'm gonna put out a confession.
Please do.
I'm done with steel books myself. I hate them.
Did you
I
drop
just
one? Get a
I
Denver?
just realized that right before we came at right
Oh,
before
that's
I
funny.
started filming because I'm moving everything around. I'm putting stuff on the shelf, all the boutique stuff that's been on the floor for the past 2 months. Yes, I finally got that done today. But the only thing that doesn't have a spot on the shelf right now is my steel books. And they're all on the floor over there. And I just had to move them all over here and they're all heavy. And I'm just like, they don't serve a purpose for me anymore. I just don't care about them. Why do I need this? It doesn't even feel good to pick it up. I love the feeling of picking up like a Blu-ray or a
Mhm.
box set or a nice slip cover. But I'm not into steelbooks anymore. And I don't know what to
Yeah,
do.
I never really have been. I'm much more of a slipcover person for sure. Like I mean, I got the Fright Night 4K Steelbook because that's my favorite movie, and like, well,
And
one that
that's
was
the
the only
only
option, but
yeah, it was the
also it
only
was
option.
gorgeous. So I probably would have gotten it anyway. I got the Sleepy Hollow Steelbook. That's another one of my favorite movies because I love the artwork so much.
That was a
Um,
cool steelbook. That was a different type of steelbook too.
yeah, very unique. But for the most part, I never do. I don't care about numbered spines except Vestron. And Vestron is the only boutique label where I won't buy it if it doesn't have a slipcover.
Yeah.
I did accidentally
That's
get
the only one
one.
I care about too.
Yeah, I accidentally got
That's
one
not
without a
true.
slipcover.
VSUs as well.
Well, do they even sell those without all the? No, they do. They do
I'm
sell them
just saying,
without all
as
the
far as
trimming,
the
don't they?
numbers. I'm just saying, as far as the numbers on them.
Oh, okay, I gotcha.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
collecting all the numbers. Those damn numbers, pesky numbers. I used to care about Paramount Presents, and I pretty much am all complete on Paramount Presents. I think I'm missing
Yes.
like 3 or 4. So my mind's like, I should just go ahead and get them. But I haven't because some of those I've already upgraded to 4K. So why am I going
Mm.
to go back and buy Blu-ray versions of them? It's 48 hours and another 48 hours. Why
Oh,
would I go
cool.
back and buy Blu-ray versions of them when I already have 4Ks of them just to
I
fill
never
in the
would.
line? And that's the annoyance of Paramount Presents because they'll do a Blu-ray in Paramount Presents and then they'll upgrade it to 4K, but they won't upgrade it within the line. They'll just do it just a regular release, and that's so annoying to me.
That is annoying. I just recently got my first Paramount Presents because a subscriber sent it to me. This
Yeah.
Breakdown with Kurt Russell. I haven't watched it yet.
I've heard good things about that movie, and that's one I've been meaning to watch for quite some time. But
Oh, same
yeah,
boat.
I was in on Paramount Presents from the very beginning. The first batch of them, I think they did Fatal Attraction, To Catch a Thief, Alfred Hitchcock movie, and King Creole, which was an Elvis movie. And I bought all
Mm.
3 of those, and I'm like, I really like these. I dig the packaging, so I tried to collect them from that point on. But I've gotten behind, I've caught up, and I don't know. It's pointless to collect numbers. It is. It is.
Sounds
But
funny to say that. Collect numbers.
collect numbers. But you know what? Some people, that's what they like. Like that drives their
Yeah.
collecting habits and how they collect and they enjoy that. Um,
Yeah, and I don't judge that because like lots of people collect baseball cards or they collect
yeah.
t-shirts or stamps or antique coins. And for the most part, nobody criticizes anybody for that. But as soon as you say like I want all these with a slipcover, people are like, well, you don't care about the movies. But it's like it's just another collection, you know, like there are a million different versions of people having a collection, and this is one of them.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it was you that explained that one time. I
I
forget
think I
which
just
video
commented
it
on one of your
was.
shorts. I don't remember what you were talking about, but I was just like, yeah, nobody ever says this about baseball cards. But the only thing you can do
That
with a
might have been
baseball
it.
card is like put it in a book and look at it.
I feel like you said it in a video or something one time. I feel like that was you.
I did a video
And
on why I want to
I would
buy.
just say I thought that was a good point. That was a very good point. How people, and I've heard people say it before. It's like nobody criticizes people that collect books or something like that. And it's like you can literally, majority of the time, you're just going to read the book once. Like how many people go back and reread books like 5 or 6 times? I don't feel like
Not
that
many
happens too
books.
often.
Yeah.
Um, and I feel like most people, like you go over to their house and they got a whole bookshelf. They probably only read maybe 10 of those books. Um,
Yeah, but nobody cares about that because it's like classy decoration, you know?
yeah,
It's like
nobody cares
decor.
about that. Let's take movie physical media into the new age, and video games as well. For people that collect video games, let's make movies on the shelf the new thing. For people to walk into. We need
Yeah,
more
there'll be
movie
like
libraries. Damn
a
it.
bedroom set up at IKEA and there's a shelf full of Scream Factory Blu-rays over there.
That's the kind of world that I want to live in.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So you never going back to steel books because I hate them. I want to go back there. You know what? I will say though, when you do stuff like this, it makes it fun, like the Major
Sure.
League Steelbook, and you put magnets on it. I thought that was really cool. I thought that was really cool. But I'm just did you ever jump into the Lionsgate Steelbooks? Did you ever get any of those with the slip covers on them?
No, I don't have any steelbooks with slipcovers.
Because that was a hot thing for a long time. Everybody was so excited about the Lionsgate Steelbooks, and they were cheap. They were affordable. You were getting steelbooks for $20, 19.99, and now they've jumped up since they've went to Walmart to like $35, and they're no longer cheap like they were.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I just don't think they're doing as many of them, and they're re-releasing a lot of stuff like the Rainbow Steel books that were already in the 10 set. They're doing standalone versions of those, and I'm just kind of down on Lionsgate. And if I'm down on Lionsgate, I'm down on Steelbooks because they got me back into Steelbooks when I was almost gave up on them a few years ago. But
Man, the end of an era.
I'm done again. I'm using this conversation with Cobwebs to talk about my disdain for Steelbooks.
Yeah,
I'm sure I'll get a bunch of comments about that.
yeah, that's what all the comments will be about.
All right, let's so we already talked about, are you a day one buyer? You said most of the time. Would you say 95% of the time you wait for the sale? Or
Yeah, I would say so. If it's like something that, I mean, one, I'm really excited about, and two, I think my audience would be really interested in. Like, I bought Dr. Terror's House of Horrors on 4K day one because one, I just really wanted to see that movie in 4K because there's never been a Hammer or Amicus movie on 4K. But I thought my audience would be interested in that. I did the same with Dr. Hitchcock. Also, both
and,
the Severin Danza Macabre box sets I got day
yeah.
one. So
And
occasionally.
plus, like you're into that stuff, so I'm sure that a part of you wants to support that, so we can
That's true.
continue to get that kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
And supporting on day one is definitely. I think they notice that a little bit more than buying stuff on the sales. But
Oh yeah,
um,
definitely.
which I feel like I know this, but do you buy more mainstream releases or boutique releases? Would you
Almost
say?
entirely boutique releases at this point. Because it's the boutique labels that are releasing like weird, obscure, older movies, and that's just what I watch almost all the time now.
Yeah.
I almost these days I have to push myself to check out a new release. And I don't want to be like that because I used to be a go to the theater all the time kind of person. Like I used to have Movie Pass. I even had Movie Pass like before it was popular when it was like $30 a
When was
month.
that? 2017 or 2018 Movie Pass?
I had it in 2013, 2014, but I also had it when
Nice.
they went down to $10. Um, but then I, my son was born and it's really hard to get out to the movies now. It's not only hard to do it, but it's hard to want to do it. Cause then I'm like, well, then I have to leave my house and like not hang out with my kid when I'm off work. And most of the time I just don't really want to do that.
Yeah.
So now, like, if I'm at home and like, a new movie is on streaming, like it's really hard for me to press play. I want to grab like one of my weird Kino Lorbers from like 1970s or something, and I want to watch that. So
Yeah.
I
It's
buy
more
boutique labels
comforting.
almost all the time. Yeah, for sure.
Are there any Do you have any streaming services? Do you watch anything on streaming? Do you keep
Yeah, we
up with
do.
anything new?
Yeah, we have Netflix primarily for my wife. Um, we have HBO Max. Again, I think we most of our streaming services are primarily because my wife wanted them for something for a show, or because my son got a hold of the remote and subscribed to something, which happened a lot until I put a pin on the Roku, and then that stopped.
Yeah,
I had
that
Peacock for a
happens.
year because they had doing some deal like $15 for a whole year, and I was like, okay. Sometimes like the Blumhouse movies go on there, so I'll do that.
Peacock's actually a pretty solid streaming service.
It is.
It's
Yeah, I get to
affordable and
check
it
out a
has a
lot
lot
of
of stuff.
yeah, I get to check out a lot of the new horror movies. They go there like pretty quick. So that's nice.
Like Night Swim
I kind of want
and
to watch Night Swim.
Lisa Frankenstein.
I have one friend who loves Night Swim, and I kind of want to watch it for him.
I
At least
watched it and I didn't see what all the fuss was about. It wasn't that bad. It was fine. I think it's just because we've seen a lot worse with some
sure.
of these boutique titles we get, and we're just kind of used to it. It just felt
True.
like 2000s J horror or something to me.
Okay. I
Um,
sometimes I do like the B-rate theatrical horror. Like
yeah,
sometimes I'm into those. Like I like Countdown with the app that kills you. That's
yeah.
actually a pretty fun movie. So I thought if Night Swim's like Countdown, maybe I'll get into it.
Everybody's like, "This is the worst movie I've ever seen." I'm like, "How many movies have you seen? If Night
Yeah.
Swim is the worst movie you've ever seen, it's really wasn't that bad."
They're not
Uh,
vinegar syndrome collectors, man. They don't know.
they don't know.
They're not Severin collectors.
But
Even worse
to
than me.
be honest though, I'm not trying to say anything negative about that because that was probably me like 10 years ago. I was
Sure.
highly critical of anything that I thought was crap. Like I
Mhm.
hated the Transformers movies and um, Rob Zombie's first Halloween film. I was just always trashed all over, and I feel like there was so many movies that I would go see in the theaters. I'm like, this is just the worst movie ever. But
It's
now
all
that I've
about what
gotten a
your
little bit older
perspective
and I've
is.
seen more, and I've got greater perspective on movies.
Yeah.
So I get it. I get it for sure. But Lisa Frankenstein, did you watch that one? I feel like you were getting ready to talk
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah, my wife and I actually we did a date night to go see that movie because I was really excited for it, and I liked it a lot. I was a big fan.
Okay. I was interested in how you would feel about it.
Yeah, because
Um,
I mean, I was excited for it because I just love Frankenstein movies and I love the Frankenstein story. It does have almost nothing to do with actual Frankenstein, which I was like,
yeah.
yeah, that's fine. But I am such a fan of that lead actress, and every time I go
Catherine
live,
Newton.
yes, Catherine Newton. And I think of all of the actors that have ever been in Diablo Cody's movies, she has handled that dialogue the best. Because sometimes
Yeah.
Diablo Cody's dialogue can sound a little overwritten, but I
Yeah.
thought I almost said Catherine Isabel. Catherine Newton like handled it so well, and I thought she was so good in that movie. And I liked how it was way darker and more macabre than I was expecting. Like it wasn't
Yeah.
this like safe teen movie. Like it really went for it. So I was a big fan. It's one of my I haven't seen a lot of new movies this year, but it's definitely one of my favorites.
Yeah. And I felt like it just captured the 80s vibe and time period very well.
It did great
In
music
a
in
way that
there.
it felt like a movie ripped out of that time period. Not in the
Yeah,
way that
kind of
other movies
edgy.
attempt to do.
Yeah, I
This one
agree with
actually
that.
felt like it was a movie from that time. Not a top tier movie from that time, but just a movie that you would like discover, you
Hmm.
know, that you never really heard anything about from the
I agree.
80s. That's kind of what it felt like to me. My wife hated it. We watched it on the
Oh, that's too
couch
bad.
last week. We watched it on Peacock, and she does not like Catherine Newton at all. She says she's the
Oh,
most
that's funny.
annoying girl ever. She hated the movie, and I was like, it wasn't that bad. I was like, I kind of appreciated some aspects of it.
Does she not like seeing two young lovers axe murder somebody?
I
What's not to
guess
like?
not. I guess not. Yeah, she'll just come up with these takes sometimes. She'll be like, I hate this, and then she goes and loves like a movie like Saltburn, which was just batshit crazy.
I mean, my wife and I went to see Pearl and we walked out and I was like, man, that was so great. And she's like, I hated that. That was awful. And I was like,
Yeah,
what?
I
So
don't.
yeah, it
I don't
happens.
think my wife was a big fan of that one or X. Are you excited for? Have you seen both X and Pearl?
Yeah, I love them. I
Are you
love them
excited for
both.
Maxine?
Very, very excited. Yeah,
Yeah, I think it looks
yeah, it's
great.
my second favorite, most anticipated movie this year, right behind Nosferatu. It looks fantastic.
I want to go rewatch. I need to rewatch X again because I liked X, but it was so hyped up for me before I watched it because I watched it like 2 months later when the Blu-ray came out. that I was like, okay, this was good, but I don't get what the hype was about. It was just a fun slasher film. And then Pearl came out, and I loved that. And I'm like, well, maybe Pearl will help me appreciate X more. So I need to go rewatch that before Maxine comes out for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my wife and I went to see X too, and that one we both loved. And we like that movie was like a roller coaster ride for us. We were just like jumping at all the jump scares and just,
Yeah.
just having a blast with the crazy ride that movie takes you on. So I love them both. I think I like X a little more, but I want to rewatch Pearl soon, like before Maxine comes out.
And it could have been because I watched X at home and I watched Pearl in the theaters.
Sure.
Maybe I appreciated that movie more on the big screen. I don't know.
That can happen.
Sometimes the theaters can matter. They can. Um, okay, so let's see. What is your favorite boutique label of all the
Right.
ones you collect for?
It
I know
is
it's about the
Vinegar
movie at the end of the day, but
Of course, of course. It is Vinegar Syndrome right now. It's definitely the one that I'm the most interested in. And for me, Vinegar Syndrome's been a slow burn where I like heard about it for a little while, but resisted it and then like started buying them maybe like 2 or 3 years ago and just like continually dip my toes in every now and then. But lately I've just been getting more into it and buying more of the stuff in the sales and kind of stocking up. And for the most part, really enjoying almost everything I get. Whenever I get something I don't like, that's the great thing about Vinegar Syndrome. I can sell it and get my money back because they hold their value really well. So I like don't even have most of the ones that I've seen that I didn't like, but they're definitely the one that I'm the most excited about. But I also like number 2 is probably Kino Lorber because I just love stocking up on tons of Kino Lorbers for dirt cheap. It's just
they're so
so much fun.
diverse. Like they just have so
Yeah,
many different types of movies.
yeah, for sure.
But that is honestly why I'm really loving Vinegar Syndrome this year because I feel like they're branching out in ways that they haven't before, especially with that new. I'm gonna try to say it right. Cinemato Cinematograph. I think is how it
I
might be
think I
pronounced.
googled the pronunciation, and I think it is cinematograph.
I'll
I think that
pronounce
was it.
it, and in that video, I'll have 3 different people in the comment section telling me, breaking it down and telling me to pronounce it 3 different ways.
Let me let
So
me let me tell you something that I've discovered. A lot of times people will comment correcting you on things, and I mean you like you or me or whoever, and they will be
they do mean a
wrong.
lot.
And you just kind of have to accept that. I get comments all the time that are like, actually, blah, blah. And I know for a fact, I'm like, no, that's not true. But I usually try to resist like going in and correcting them. I'll just be like, I'm just going to let that be.
Just let
So
it
that
go.
happens all the
Oh,
time.
really, man? That's cool. But yeah, anyway, I'll say cinematograph. I feel like I've heard people say that the most. I don't know. Have you heard that? What's the pronunciation? What's the correct pronunciation?
I Googled it and I'm pretty sure it said cinematograph.
Cinematograph. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, that Red Rock West, Little Darlings, they were great additions. Going South, like the Jack Nicholson directed film, was so much fun.
That
Like I
sounded great.
loved
I
it.
heard you talk about it and I thought like, I kind of want to get that. That sounds great. I only
Yeah.
have Red Rock West, which I love,
I
but
feel
I
like Going
want,
South will be in stock forever. I just don't feel like people are gonna buy
yeah,
it.
it's kind of a Western, which,
Yeah.
you like, I like, but a lot of people don't.
Oh, dude, that is my favorite discovery.
That's awesome.
Since I've gotten into the boutique stuff and more into film over the past few years is westerns.
I
And it
love
all
West.
started like I used to do theme months on the channel for a while. I would like to
Mhm.
get back to them at some point. It's just I'm so busy like covering new stuff. It's like hard to fit it in.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But I think in January of 2022, I did a Western month, and I'm like, I'm just going to dive headfirst into this genre. And I watched movies like Stagecoach with John Wayne and um, Tombstone for the first time, Unforgiven, the Dollars trilogy, Once Upon a Time in the West, which is now like one of my all-time favorite movies. I can't wait for that 4K. But the spaghetti westerns, those are the ones that I really gravitate towards the most. Um, and also,
Yeah,
I like the classic Western stuff too.
one
Shane was another great one.
oh man, Shane would be so great if it didn't have the most annoying kid I've ever seen in my entire life. I was like, everything about this movie is fantastic, except that kid is ruining every scene he is in.
Come on, Shane.
Oh god, I hate him. But everything else is awesome. Oh god, it's so
I just love that
frustrating.
bar fight that lasts for like 35 minutes.
Pretty
They're all
good.
just punching each other.
I love a good bar fight. Yeah,
That's
the
supposed to come to
trajectory.
4K soon.
I saw that and I was like, I
Yeah.
want it, but I don't because I don't want to see that kid again. So I'm a little
Yeah,
conflicted.
I get it.
A trajectory I see a lot of people who get into Westerns go through, which is exactly what I went through, which is thinking you don't like Westerns and then starting to get into the spaghetti Westerns. That was the first thing I got into, where I was like, oh, Westerns aren't all like square and like, oh, howdy, ma'am, shucks and stuff.
Yeah,
Like, oh, they can be violent, they can be edgy. And I got really into spaghetti Westerns for a little while. And then I started watching like the 50s Westerns and I realized, oh, these aren't boring and square. Like these are really good and edgy too.
yeah,
So then I might have even got more into the 50s Westerns than even the spaghetti Westerns. But yeah, it's just like it's a great atmosphere. They're like post-apocalyptic movies, except just like pre-civilization instead of after, which is something I
yeah,
like about them.
yeah. It's a good way to describe it. Yeah, I try to tell people like if you like the Italian horror films, like giallos and stuff like that, like spaghetti westerns, they're really not that different. Like I feel like you can enjoy them. They both have great music, and a lot of the same people were involved in making them.
Oh yeah, for sure. A
They
lot of
both
them.
have like the same tone, the same vibe. It's just one's, you know, the giallo kind of more of a city setting, and one's set in the old west, and it's got cowboys and dirt and horses. So
Mm-hmm.
um, but really, like I watched a crazy one in that. I think it was the Blood Money box set, or it was the Savage Guns, and I can't remember. I think it was called like Metallo Kill Him or something.
Okay.
And I loved that one. It was absolutely batshit insane.
Yeah, you
Um,
you
um,
really made me want to get those box sets.
oh
I've
my god,
seen.
I enjoyed both of those box. Well, I actually haven't watched Vengeance Trails yet.
Okay,
That was the first one they did, but I watched Blood Money and Savage Guns, every one in those box sets.
nice. Yeah, the only movie I've seen in those is I've seen For the Apocalypse, the full because it was Lucille Fulci, and I like Fulci.
That one
Um,
was good.
that is good. That's an unusually like sweet movie for Lucille Fulci. Like it's not
Yeah.
all just like gore and blood. It's like, oh, this is like a nice movie about like broken characters finding each other, and you would not expect that from Fulci very often.
Yeah, the Metallo Kill Him was like, it felt like a Rob Zombie movie, to be honest. It felt like Three from
I'm
Hell,
in. I'll watch
like,
that.
or
That
The
sounds
Devil's
great.
Rejects, and all that people don't like Three from Hell. But that same crew, the Firefly family, just a bunch of insane people battling this guy that wields a boomerang. Like it's just, it was like a psychedelic trip, like Western movie. I freaking love that movie. But
That's
yeah, those
awesome.
box sets, like I was like, all right, I'm gonna watch one of these so I can kind of briefly cover this box set and talk about at least one of the films. Every time I start them, I can't stop. I just binge all the way through all of them. I love them.
That's the best feeling when you find a box set like that.
Where
That's
it
one of my
doesn't feel
favorites.
like a chore. It's like I'm
Yeah.
actually loving this and enjoying
Mm-hmm.
it. And I want to watch more of these. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like I like a lot of movies that I watch, but sometimes it's like, like I think you talked about it, but the Coffin Joe box set. It's like I
Yep.
like the first movie, and then all of a sudden the one that I was wanted to watch dropped the sound or subtitles, and I couldn't
Right.
watch it.
I still haven't got my replacement
And
disc.
then I
So
tried
weird.
to. Oh, you didn't get that? I got that a
No, I
few
signed
weeks
up for it
ago.
like right away.
Um, so yeah, there was that issue, and then I tried to watch the second one, and I just couldn't get through it. So I'm hoping to return to it at some point, but
Yeah, I watched the first two. I liked them. I was definitely interested in them, but I don't feel a strong need to keep going. Like I'll keep going eventually, but I don't feel like when I ordered the box set, my intention was to binge through it and then do a video on it. And
yeah,
I just don't know when that's going to happen, to be honest.
it's always the intention. Always the
Yeah,
intention.
exactly. But I love it when the intention comes together.
Yeah, that one movie was that dropped the subtitles seemed pretty damn wild because I fast forward to see if they'd ever pick back up, and then it turned color, and I'm like, "What the hell is going on?" And then they're
The
like in
second one
hell.
turns color too.
Oh, it does.
Yeah.
It's like the
I
Wizard of Oz.
I mean, I would recommend the second one because it's like the first one, but way more batshit insane.
Yeah,
And I like it better for that reason.
I need to jump back into it. It's just back in January, like so much was coming out. It felt like at the same time, like the Conans came out right at that
Hmm.
same time, and I just have to prioritize stuff sometimes. Um,
Sure.
so, but I'll get back to it at some point. I always say that. I honestly just need to quit collecting for like 6 years and watch everything that I've got and just pretend it's a new release. Oh, look at this title that I
It
got
is.
5 years ago. It's brand new to me. Let's go watch it.
It's a sickness because I'll just like be on my phone and be like, oh, I really want to order this and this. And then I think, like, Daniel, you just bought like 10 movies. like last week, and
Yeah,
you
it's
watched like 2 of
crazy.
them.
I'm
What
trying to
you
break
doing?
myself of it. I really am. I'm really trying to turn over a new leaf. But damn it, Vinegar Syndrome and Second Sight and all those sons of bitches, they just keep coming for my wallet. It feels like every single month with these
Oh
amazing
man, but it's
releases.
also, I mean, it's your channel, right? So that probably makes it really hard to hold back too.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. For
Because you
sure.
can't just ignore what's coming out because you
I
cover it every single
can't.
week.
I can't. And look, I love it. I get excited for it and all that stuff. But sometimes it's just like I got to get to the stuff I haven't watched yet. I just have to at
Mhm.
some point. So do you mentioned this before, but you're a slipcover primarily person, or you just really don't care either way? I'll phrase it like this: you said you didn't like steel books. I usually ask steel books or slips. Do you care about slipcovers, or can you go without?
I mean, I can go without, but I like them. Like
Okay.
I mean, I particularly love them if they're really nice, like for Vinegar Syndrome. But one thing that's nice is when I first started buying Vinegar Syndromes, I bought some that didn't have slips, so I don't have to be a completionist because I already have non-slipped Vinegar Syndrome. So that's kind of nice that I have that out. But I certainly like them. Like Vinegar Syndromes, they cost a little bit extra if you get them with slips, right? But I still get them because I like them. So
Yeah.
for the most part, I would rather have a slip. I want my Kino Lorber 4Ks to have slips because, like I talked about
Yeah.
this in a video, but well, I don't want to pull it out because it's going to knock that over. But I ordered the Silence of the Lambs 4K, and it told me it wasn't going to have a slip cover, and I was just like, okay, fine, I'll bite the bullet. It's a really good price, but it came with a slip cover, so that was really
Nice.
nice. So it's really just like if I feel like it's going to mess up a collection, it starts to worry me, like with Vestron, because I had one without a slipcover and it stressed me out. But then a subscriber sent me their slipcover that they didn't care about. So that was very nice. So
I
now I'm
still need the
good on
slipcover to
those.
Class of '99. If
That
anybody
was
out
the
there is
one.
watching, is that the
That was the
one?
one. Yeah.
Now let me ask you this: I'm looking for the Unholy. That's a tough one to get. Now, do you have the one that's not the UK version? Because the UK version one you can get, but that
No, I don't
one,
have any UK versions.
I don't know what happened with it. Like that's the only one that seems to be tough to get.
I bought this in a lot. I bought this like it was, I don't know, it was, a fairly decent price, but it was 3 of them together. And that was one of
Okay.
them.
Is it on eBay or something?
Yeah, it was on eBay.
All right. Yeah, I don't feel like I could buy that for under like $200 because like you can literally not find
Wow.
it anywhere at
That's
all.
crazy. It's good. I really like the movie.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, Class of '99. That's the one I need. The one slipcover, and I need the Unholy, and then I would be complete. But
Nice. I'm not actually complete. I don't have all them. I will never be complete on Vestron because I told myself I would never buy Gothic because I think it's one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my
I've never
life.
seen it.
I streamed it and I was like, good Lord, I will never buy that on Vestron. So I'll never be a completionist, but oh well. I'm a completionist after they got cheap. So
Yeah.
that's something.
Yeah, and then did you go back and backtrack and buy them all? They went on
Yeah, because
sale
I
on
already had a
Diabolic for like
few.
15 bucks like a couple years ago, and that's when I stocked up. Or maybe it was just last year. But I got
Yeah,
like
I
10
remember
that I
that.
needed, and they were on sale, and they all came with slip covers.
Yeah, I bought a couple then, and one of them was class of 99, and it did not come with a slip. Um, but it all turned out all right in the end. But yeah, I had a few before then. Like I had the Gate, I had Wishmaster, I had Warlock.
Yeah.
But then after they got cheap, I started buying them, and then I got weird. I got like obsessed with collecting them more than I ever get obsessed with collecting any lines or anything like that. And I just started grabbing them on eBay. And sometimes I would bite the bullet and pay like $30 to get one because it had the slipcover, and I was like, I shouldn't do this, but whatever. I did that with Maximum
It's a
Overdrive.
cool line, and they all look
Yeah,
really good together on the
I
shelf.
love them.
They do.
I'm a big fan of almost all the movies, at least the ones I've watched. There's a few I haven't yet.
But you know you gotta get Gothic in the collection at some point because
I don't have Gothic. I
you
don't
have
have
to be
Bud the
complete,
Chud.
Daniel. You have to.
I know, I know.
You don't
Somebody
have
just needs
Bud
to
the
hand it to
Chud?
me.
You don't
Somebody
have
needs to.
Bud the Chud?
I don't. I've never seen it.
I've
I
never seen
do
it either.
kind of want it. I do kind of want it, but I don't have it
I
yet.
watched Chud for the first time a couple of years ago, and I was like, I didn't like it that much.
I've never made it through it. I've tried.
Even though it's got the dad from Home Alone.
And
Keep forgetting
the
his name,
Wet
even though
Bandit from Home Alone,
it does. It has
Daniel Stern,
yeah, it has Daniel Stern in it as well.
Mhm.
What's the guy's name? What's the dad's name?
John Hurd, I
John
think.
Hurd. Yeah, even I've seen him pop up in so many movies I've watched recently, like Chili Scenes of Winter from Criterion.
Yeah,
Have you seen that movie?
No, I've had the Twilight time forever, and I still haven't
That's a
watched it.
great
And your
movie.
review did not make me want to watch it, to be honest. You like described it, and I was like, "Ooh, that does not sound like a Daniel movie at all."
Yeah, it's a I kind of related it to like have you seen High Fidelity
I don't think
with
I have
John
actually. I
Cusack?
know a lot about it. Like
It
I know the
felt a
iconic
lot like that
lines.
movie, just a guy that can't deal with a woman not wanting him.
Yeah, I hate those kind of stories because I always feel like the guy is such a
The wimpy.
loser and it's such a
It
turn off to
is.
me.
Yeah, it is.
And I'm
It
like, dude,
is.
just move on. Just
I
stop.
thought it was a very well done movie, though. I did like it. I don't know. I think with that movie, like I enjoyed watching it, but when I watch the special features, I sometimes it'll make me appreciate it a little bit more and seeing the people
Yeah.
that were behind it. Um, but sometimes that happens.
Mhm.
Do you do a lot of blind buying?
I do almost entirely blind buying.
Okay.
That's my favorite thing to do. Because like it's really exciting to me to buy a movie I've never seen and then get it in and then check it out. So sometimes I have to kind of push myself to buy a movie that I've already seen that I know I want, but I'm like, but it's less exciting because I'm not going to pop it in and watch it for the first time. So I love blind buying, but that's probably one reason I often wait for sales. I like try to spend a little bit less. But yeah, and I also just don't rewatch movies a whole lot because I just like checking out movies I've never seen. I like discovering more stuff. So yeah, blind buying. I actually did a video on my channel about why do I blind buy and
Yeah.
talked about a bunch of different reasons.
Now, does that keep you from buying anything you've already seen? Do you actively not buy stuff that you've seen before,
No, I
even if you
will.
really love it?
No, I will. Just sometimes I have to push myself, just be like, Daniel, you want that in the
Yeah.
collection, just get it. Like I just ordered as part of the Target buy two, get one free. I did just order Pearl. We were just talking about I didn't have it. And I ordered Talk to Me, which I've already seen, but I wanted both those in the collection. So I will do that. And Silence of the Lambs, I just bought that. I've seen that, of course. I just didn't have it. So I will, but it's just less exciting to me. So I do it a little less.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely makes sense. Makes sense. Now, you brought up something interesting a little while back about how you will sell stuff if you don't like it. So that's not an issue for you to sell your movies if you don't like them. That doesn't feel like you're giving anything up. It sounds like you like a really curated collection of movies that you know that you enjoy and you're going to want to revisit.
If it's worth a resale, like if it's something I don't really care about and it's going for good money, I will get rid of it. So I will often get rid of Vinegar Syndromes I don't care for because I can get my money back. It I don't love it. Like I would love to keep everything for the most part, unless it's something I really hate. But I don't. I usually am pretty good at buying things that I know I'll at least somewhat enjoy.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's worth it to me to get a little bit extra Blu-ray money to then buy something else. And it's just kind of like pick and choose and like, well, I would rather buy something else, so I'll sell this to get the extra money. But it has to be worth it. So like, with standard Blu-rays, I pretty much never sell those because they're basically worthless. I mean, as soon as you open the packaging off and they're not in a Walmart anymore,
They are.
yeah, they don't go for anything. So for the most part, I don't really get rid of those because there's almost no point.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so tough for me because I always think to myself, well, how am I going to feel in, 10 years? Am I going to want to rewatch that specific movie or what mood am I going to be in? Am I going because there are movies that I watched 15 years ago and didn't like and I watched them recently and I love. So that
It
happens.
happens.
I think our opinions change all the time.
Yeah,
So
it
it's
does.
hard for me to give up stuff, but at the same time, it's like, well, if I really just don't like it, there's so many other movies to experience. Do I really have to keep going back to this one and retrying it over and over again to see if I can finally like it? Or
Yeah,
do I
like
just move on?
one Vinegar Syndrome I sold was Silent Madness. Did you see that or buy that?
I think I do have it back there
Is an
somewhere.
80s slasher, and it's just like
Are you telling me to sell it before I even watch it?
one of the most
Don't waste my
interminably
time.
boring things I've ever sat through in my life. Like it is so boring, like nothing happens. And that was one I was very content with selling off.
Well, that makes
Usually if
sense
I
given the title, Silent Madness.
yeah, like you just go mad from the boredom. But if it's something where I'm like one that I didn't like, but I don't have intention of selling off is Evil Laugh. Because it is kind of a fun 80s slasher.
I
And
actually like that a lot.
I could see myself rewatching this. I didn't think it was very good, but I could see myself giving this
But
another
that
chance and
was
enjoying it
another
more.
one that I liked the movie. I thought it was fun. but I watched the entire documentary on the movie after I watched it, and that made me enjoy the movie more.
I haven't watched the documentary yet. I do know it's directed by the Chocolate Stains guy from Friday 5,
It
which is
is, yeah.
fascinating.
Yeah, it is, and it's got Scott Baio's brother in it, and they go into that
Uh-huh.
whole thing, and it was a really fun, entertaining documentary because you don't always get like the entire cast to come back and talk about a movie if it's like a bigger movie, but like these movies, these people are literally not doing anything anymore, so
Sure.
they'll all come back and
That's
be
a great thing
open
about
to talk,
Vinegar Syndrome docs a lot of the time.
about the movies.
Yeah.
So they're always giving like good facts and information and background, stories and stuff. So
Well, that's a
um,
good reason to keep this, keep it because one of these days I'll check out the documentary because I do love the Vinegar Syndrome documentaries. And that's one of the reasons that they are my favorite boutique label now is I feel like they do the best job at that or they
yeah,
seem to do it the most. Whereas a lot of boutique
they
labels,
do.
Scream Factory used to do it a lot, but they don't really do it so much anymore.
I noticed that because I had never, I'd watched my Blu-ray Silent Night, Deadly Night, but I had never checked out the special features. It took me a while to get on board with special features. I was never a guy that appreciated those or
I can relate to
commentaries
that.
or anything like that until recently. I'd say within the past like 4 or 5 years or something.
Hmm.
And now it's like I want to watch them all. When I get done watching the movie, it's like almost an extra movie to watch, which I
Hmm.
got so many other movies to watch, but I like to dive into the background stuff now. But with Scream Factory, with Silent Night, Deadly Night, I discovered the documentary on the making of the movie, and it was a Scream Factory documentary. I was like, oh, this is cool. I wish they still did this because I would rather watch a documentary than watch like 5 or 6 different interviews.
For
Um,
sure. I'm not a big fan of watching the interviews for the most part, unless it's a really good one, but I love the documentaries.
yeah, yeah. I just think that it's just structured better, and it just you can just pop it on and just kind of sit through it. I don't have to scroll and change, and maybe somebody's just boring. I don't feel like listening to them and their
That
story.
happens.
But if you integrate them with everybody else in one documentary, it just becomes more interesting.
For sure. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but let's see. Do you buy a lot of 4K?
I have started becoming a 4K convert fairly recently, actually. Like
Okay.
I started buying 4Ks a little while back, but it was just like occasionally, and if it wasn't too much more. And it took me a while to really notice the difference, to be honest.
I guess I should say, are you a believer in the format?
I'm starting to believe. I'm starting to feel the spirit
It does take a
inside.
little bit to get there.
Yeah. Because honestly, a big
You
turning
have
point
to
for
know what to
me.
look for.
Yeah, big turning point for me very recently was Dr. Terror's House of Horrors because I have seen like every Hammer and Amicus movie from that period, and I've seen most of them several times. And I'd never seen any on 4K before because none of them had ever been on 4K before. This is actually the first one.
Yeah.
And I put it on and I'm like, oh my God, like they've never looked this good. And Dr. Terror's House of Horrors isn't like remarkably better than most of them. It's really not. But it looked insanely good. Like none of the movies had ever looked that good before. And it made me feel like I just want all of these movies to be in 4K. And it almost like it kind of unlocked something in my brain where I've started like watching more 4Ks, really appreciating it. And then I'll put on a Blu-ray and be like, oh, it is different.
Yeah.
Like some Blu-rays are fantastic. Like I say a lot, I think Criterion Blu-rays are phenomenal. Like for the most
They
part,
are. They are.
I usually don't buy Criterion 4Ks because the Blu-rays look so good. I kind of feel like I don't need anything else. But like I recently watched, I mean, it's an older Screen Factory Blu-ray, so I can't judge Blu-rays based on it, but it was Of Unknown Origin, the Peter Weller movie. And I was like, oh, this does not look very good. Like, especially after I watched a 4K pretty recently. So I'm
Yeah.
starting to get there. I almost wish I wasn't, but I am.
You can become very snobbish about it once you do get there. I think when it
I don't want
becomes
to.
more noticeable is when you watch those classic films.
Yeah.
Because for a long time I was just buying the new stuff. Like I think one of my first 4Ks was like Wonder Woman, and I watched some of the Marvel stuff and
Hmm.
Baby Driver, and it's like the modern movies. Like the difference between 4K and Blu-ray, it's really not that noticeable.
No.
It's
Yeah, I
really
totally
not.
agree.
Like you can when you really just like look and start to pick it apart, but with those older movies, like what they do with those restorations, it's and how they just bring it back to that more natural state. That's what I really appreciate.
I
about.
totally agree. Like another turning point for me was, I think for me, the best 4K I've ever seen for my eyes is Casablanca, the Casablanca 4K.
Oh, beautiful. 4K, 4K black and white
Unbelievable.
is like always looks phenomenal.
I'm all on board
Always.
for black and white 4K. Yeah. And also
Yeah.
the Manchurian Candidate from Kino Lorber. That
Oh, I
was
still
another
need to
one that was
watch that.
so stunning. It's such a good movie. It's really
The one
cool.
the one that really highlighted it for me was Django from Arrow Video, which is spaghetti western.
I like
Um,
that movie, but I haven't seen the 4K.
that was an insane restoration. I was just my jaw was on the floor. I'm like, oh, this is 4K. I didn't know what this was until now, and just how like I don't know, just how vivid the blood was, and just how it all the colors were just so natural looking, but just so like highlighted and fully
Mm.
fleshed out. Um, and just the you could just see the hairs all over his face, all the little individual like hairs, and it was just so detailed,
Franco
and the
Nero's
clarity was so
bright
there.
blue eyes
It
shining at
just
you.
looked insane. And I was like, this is one of the best I've ever seen. And Arrow Video and Vinegar Syndrome to me are just on top of the mountain when it comes
Hmm.
to those classic restorations. Freeway was another one that was insane to me when I watched it.
Yeah, I haven't
Looked
seen that
absolutely
one.
fantastic. And Roadhouse, mind blowing. But yeah, I do love me a good 4K at this point. I am a little snobbish about it. Do you still buy DVDs?
I tried not to be snobby about DVDs for a long time, but I've turned against them now because I started to notice a lot of my DVDs stopped working. Like the
Oh
disc rot would
damn.
start to set in. I've got one box set I really liked on DVD that I noticed a lot of the DVDs don't play anymore, or they would only play like halfway through. I also noticed a lot of them would just kind of just start skipping, and I would like check the DVD, and it really doesn't look scratched, doesn't look dirty, but they just start skipping. And I just feel like the shelf life on DVDs is just not good, and it's not holding up this far down the road. So I've stopped. I haven't bought a DVD in a long time because I just feel like it's not going to last. Maybe it'll give me one watch, but I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. I haven't had a problem, at least that I know of. I mean, I don't watch a ton of DVDs, but at least not yet. I mean, my most recent DVD watches were Corky Romano, and I watched The Ladies' Man the other night.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Because I just bought that DVD, and they both played fine, and they looked decent on my plasma screen back there. Now, if I tried to play them on my OLED TV, they probably look like crap. Um,
Some DVDs look good. I've long said, and my friends don't believe me, that the best DVD of all time is the Urban Legend DVD, because I still just have Urban Legend on DVD and it looks phenomenal. Like it looks like
does it?
indistinguishable from Blu-ray to
I
me.
missed Urban Legend on DVD. I had the VHS, and then I
Oh,
upgraded
okay.
that to the Scream Factory that came out. I
I don't
love that
understand
movie.
why the DVD is as good as it is.
Um,
Um, but yeah, it was the box set was the Val Lewton box set from Warner Brothers. And I talked about those movies in a video recently, and someone commented, was like, "Oh, do you have the DVD box set? Has the disc rod set in? Because mine doesn't play anymore." And I'm like, "Yes." So it must be something with that box, maybe. But it's kind of made me turn against DVDs.
what are we going to do about disc rot? Do you think we're going to have to worry about that with our Blu-rays?
I hope not, but that's an interesting thing, is I don't feel like we really know at this point. It will be very interesting because like my intention is to like, have access for the rest of my life to these movies and not feel in too much of a rush to like watch through everything I have real quick because I have the rest of my life. But if they turn out to be not as permanent as we think they are, that would be that'd be a big bummer. I hope not.
Yeah, you got to convert them over. That's what a lot of people say they're starting to do.
Convert
I'm
them
not.
over. What do you mean? Like into digital?
I don't know. Yeah, into digital, like there's some
Oh.
kind of process, like what is it, Plex or something?
I think, isn't Jeff from Films at Home pretty big into that? I think I've heard him talk about that.
I think so. I just haven't gotten into all that. I'm really dumb when it comes to all that stuff, but I know that
Yeah, I'm
some
not
people do
techie.
take their actual collection and they convert it to digital
See, like,
in some way.
I feel like I buy them so I don't have to go to all that trouble.
Yeah. Did you hear about the recent development? There was somebody that was talking about making like a disc so big
I
the
did.
that it could fit all of your movies on it. I'm
It
like, that
sounds
would take
horrible to
all the
me.
fun out of what I do. That's not why I collect
What if
movies.
you lose
That's
it?
basically having a streaming service on a disc, and then
Yeah.
I'm back to doing that crap.
Yeah, and you got to search it up. And
Yeah, what if
what, like
you
every
lose the
time you
one
buy a new
disc? What
movie?
if my dog bites the one disc?
Yeah.
Takes it outside and chews it up.
What if that
It's
disc
crazy.
rots?
What if that disc rots?
Then the whole collection is gone. Yeah. Plus, I like the aesthetic of shelves full of movies.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I would lose all that.
for sure. Do you do a lot of thrifting? Do you go to, like, thrift stores and things like that?
Sometimes my location is not great for that. So for the most part, I kind of got into thrifting back into it a little while ago because I started like buying VHSs again. And VHSs is kind of an
Oh, that's
exciting thing
cool.
to thrift for around my area, but I'll pretty much never find Blu-rays, hardly ever. But when
Me
I
either.
first started getting into collecting, like 2012, 2013, I was huge into pawn shops and I like built up a lot of my collection through pawn shops and buying movies for like $3, $4 a piece. So I was big into pawn shops. But now when I go into pawn shops, they'll have Blu-rays, but it's pretty rare that they have anything I don't have that I want. But I did do a vlog on my channel, I think last summer, where I went to pawn shops and I did find some kind of cool stuff. So maybe I should try more often. But kind of feel like I've drained that well at this point.
Yeah, yeah. I don't feel like I can't find any Blu-rays at all. I know people
Well,
that
there
will
you
go
go.
into their Goodwills and they'll find like stacks of 4Ks. I'm like, where are these places at? You know, I've been to
My
like
wife, my
15
wife a little
this
while ago
week.
went to a consignment sale for like baby stuff, and they had some movies, and she came back with like the Fablemans with a slipcover and Dark Shadows and some other stuff, and they were all like $2 a piece. I'm like, man, I
Nice.
never find this when I go out. It's crazy.
Yeah, just DVDs. But I have thrifted some DVDs and VHSs fairly recently and kind of gotten back into that a little bit.
It's fun. Like the thrill of the hunt in person is definitely a different experience.
Yeah, I used to do it a lot.
Yeah, me too.
And then the pandemic happens. And I quit going out as much unless it was to
Hmm.
Best Buy. All right. What are some other things you collect besides movies? Are you going to collect anything else?
I have some like figures and stuff, but almost all of them are gifts because like people I know realized that not to buy me movies because they don't know what I have and I have so much. So I sometimes I would get like, like horror figures. So I have a good bit of those. Um, I got kind of into Legos like a couple of years ago or so, and I started buying more Lego sets, and I really enjoyed putting those together. But ever since my son was born, that's gone because like when he's around, like he'll just come up and just destroy it all. There's no point in even
Yeah,
trying,
or
and I
stick
don't
it in
really
his
miss it to
mouth.
be honest. But it was fun. But yeah, as far as what I actually spend my money on, probably the only other thing is t-shirts. Is I do really like movie and horror related t-shirts and stuff. That's probably the closest thing I got.
Yeah, that damn gutter garbs is killing me every single Monday. They want to post something cool like Terminator and RoboCop. I'm like,
I've never
don't
bought
y'all
from
know
gutter
I'm
garbs.
broke right now?
You're broke?
I am, as a joke.
I watch your channel and I'm like, this guy is rolling in money. Like, good for him. He's got a great job.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But what do you like the most about collecting? And what do you like the least?
Ooh, good questions. I mean, I like the emphasis that it puts on older movies, I think, and that because of, it's mostly because of physical media, we get really nice restorations of older movies. And I think that's one thing people don't really talk about when they talk about physical versus streaming is like the reason a lot of older movies are on streaming and they're in good quality is because of physical media labels. Like people talk about how a lot of you can watch a lot of Vinegar Syndrome movies on Tubi for free. And like great,
Yeah,
but it's because of Vinegar Syndrome that they look decent. Otherwise, they were on 50-pack DVDs and they look terrible. So I
yeah,
think I just like kind of like the emphasis and importance it puts on older stuff. It's kind of it's a big reason that people go back and check out a lot of older movies because of
yeah.
physical media and the boutique labels primarily. So I
I,
really
I
like
think they've
that.
become a big driver of a lot of physical media. I mean,
Oh
it's the
yeah,
classic stuff. I mean,
for
people
sure.
like picking up their new titles, but like, I think the majority of people are more excited about the older stuff, at least in the collecting community.
You said this in a video recently that really stood out to me where you were talking about
It's probably
some.
stupid then if I
No, it
said it.
wasn't. It was some modern movie got announced. Some movie in theaters got announced to get a physical media release, and you were like, "Oh, it's nice to see like a new movie getting a physical media release." And I thought about that, and I thought, "Damn, that's true." Like back in the day, that's all
That
that
was
would get
today, I
physical media
think.
releases. Yeah, it was probably on my way home from work. I was listening to it,
Yeah.
like I do. And I was like,
Well,
isn't that weird that the new movies are now less likely to get the
and
physical
what I
media
meant by that
release?
was, it's like, yeah, the stuff that goes to the theaters, like usually you see that stuff come out, but the lesser known stuff that you don't hear a lot about, some of this stuff is slipping through and not going to
Mhm.
physical media.
For sure. Yeah, and
Um,
it's such a bummer to me when like I watch a Shutter original and I really like it, and it's one of the ones that RLJEJE just doesn't mess with. Like
yeah,
there's
that's weird that they don't do some, because I
yeah.
consider, because I don't have Shutter, because I feel like most of the ones that really pop on Shutter are going to get physicals from RLJE, but there probably are a lot that don't.
I mean,
Um,
they don't all pop, but some
yeah.
of them I still really like and I would like to get. Like Influencer, that never got a release, did it? I don't think
Um,
so.
I don't think so.
That's a really good movie. A Wounded Fawn is another one. I thought that was fantastic and it never got a release. So yeah, it is sad how the streaming movies, like people work hard on these movies, they get them released, and then they just kind of slip through the sand and they're just kind of
Yeah.
gone. And then sometimes they get written off for a tax write-off.
And
It's
it's
like
like, I can
dystopian.
understand if you're a streaming exclusive. I don't expect the streaming exclusives to come physical, but some of these movies come out in the theaters,
Hmm.
and then they don't go. Then they go straight to VOD, and they don't see physical. And
Yeah.
the biggest example of that is Barbarian, and they
Yeah.
still don't have a real. And that was the movie
That's
that did
weird.
well in the theaters,
Yeah,
and
that's not
everybody
normal
liked
at
it. A lot
all.
of people were talking about it, and for whatever reason, that one just has disappeared from everybody's radar and
Hmm.
didn't come to physical media. And there's still no real like explanation for it other than Disney sucks, and that's just
Yeah, it doesn't
their
make any sense.
that's
It's
just
so
standard
unusual.
operating procedure over there. But then they want to put out the Boogeyman on Blu-ray. I'm like, why does the Boogeyman get it? Because I'm pretty sure that's Fox Searchlight as well. Get a Blu-ray, but Barbarian doesn't. It just doesn't make any sense.
I have no idea. Like, I don't know, is Disney all of a sudden decide, you know what, maybe we do want to be family friendly. We won't release Barbarian. Like, well, then why'd you release in theaters in the first place? Like, come on, what are you doing?
But I mean, they've always been, because that's why they had Touchstone and they had Hollywood
Yeah.
Pictures, like, to be able to do their mature movies, and now they got Fox Searchlight to do that kind of stuff, and they release stuff on physical media, like stuff is coming out from Fox Searchlight, but not
Hmm.
Barbarian. Like the
Yeah, I
Banshees of
just saw,
Inisherin came out,
I think the
and
first
then
Omen was Fox Searchlight, wasn't it? I
that'll get
just
a
saw that.
release. Yeah, that'll get a release for sure. Did you see that movie? I hear that movie's
Hmm.
getting a lot of hype. You went to the theater to see it?
I did. I finally like got out to the theater on a weekend and checked it out.
Was it
Yeah,
good?
it's good. I mean, it's very well worn territory. So it's a
I need
story
you to be
you've
honest
definitely
with
already
me right
seen
now.
before.
Is this movie overhyped? Are people hyping it up too much?
I think a little bit for me because I
Okay.
mean, you know exactly what the
Thank you for
story
being
is.
honest.
There's a bit of a mystery to it, but you know exactly what it is. You know how it's going to end. And the style of it, it very much felt like someone was like, okay, what's the A24 thing? Take that, put that on the Omen franchise. There we go. So it very much feels like a little bit of a Robert Eggers ripoff, to be honest. Like they took the feeling of The Witch so close. I was
Okay.
like, this is interesting. I just kind of lifted The Witch and put it onto the Omen. But it's good, very well acted, beautifully shot. There are some shots in the movie that are like burn into your brain, disturbing stuff. There's one shot in the movie. I had no idea it would like be allowed in like a movie that goes to theaters, even if it's R-rated. I was like, holy cow, I can't believe they showed that. So that's pretty cool. So it's absolutely
Yeah.
worth watching, but I
I
didn't
do
think it
want to
was like
see it.
a new masterpiece.
But I'll be honest, like when it comes to the Omen, my favorite's the second one. I
Yeah,
like
that's
Damien the
insane.
Omen too, just because
I mean,
how wild it is. I love that elevator kill. I was like, oh,
I'm a
this movie's
huge
so freaking
original
awesome.
Omen guy. I love the original Omen.
There are quite a few people that are like that. That's a movie I need to reevaluate, because I've seen it a couple times. It was my mom's favorite horror movie. So I remember watching it when I was a kid and thinking, that's it, mom, like this movie isn't that great. But I was so used to like Halloween and Jason and Nightmare on Elm Street and stuff, and it just wasn't wild enough for me. Then I rewatched it a couple of years ago. I was like, this is good, but I still couldn't quite get into it. I think it was like maybe 6 years ago. So I need to rewatch it. I need to
I actually
rewatch it.
saw it for the first time in the last few years because I thought I maybe because it's starring Gregory Peck, even though I really like Gregory Peck, I thought it was just kind of like the safe Hollywood, like for old people horror movie. So I didn't
Yeah.
watch it. And I finally checked it out, and it was way more of like a legit, gruesome, like awesome satanic horror movie, like way more than I expected. So I was like really blown away by it.
Because I want to appreciate it and I want to like it because it is so classic. And I like most every classic horror film. Like I love Rosemary's Baby and The Wicker Man and those kind of movies I've just discovered recently. So maybe I'll have a new appreciation for it. But I do love Damien the Omen too. I think that one's underrated. And I still haven't watched I haven't watched the third or the fourth one. And
I
I
haven't
saw the
either.
remake in the theaters back in I think 2006 when it came out because they marketed it as 666,
Right.
and it was garbage, and I haven't watched it since.
I heard it's like a shot for shot remake. I haven't seen that either. I've only seen the first two and then this new one.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. Did you talk about what you like the least about collecting?
Oh, I didn't. I have one annoyance, and I know it's something you really like, so you won't agree, but I
Go
don't
for
like
it.
it when a movie gets a really nice, really fancy, like big box, expensive edition. And it's a movie I
Oh
like
yeah.
want, but not that much. And I'm like, I would really rather just have like a little $10 Kino Lorber Blu-ray of that movie. But then they
Yeah.
just like release this like $45 big thing.
Like
And I'm
Green
like,
Room.
I mean, I already have I've had Green Room like since it came out. So I just have
Yeah.
a normal Blu-ray of it. But yeah, Second Sight is like the least on my radar of boutique labels because that's basically what they do is they release really nice high dollar versions of movies I already have. So
Yeah.
I don't care about that
I
personally.
was when I first started collecting for Second Sight, it's gotten out of control to be honest. I was like, I'm only getting stuff if I really love it. And I got Drive because I love that movie, and I got The Guest. I love that movie. Which I love that movie. And then that turned into now I'm just getting everything they put out.
Yeah. I
um,
do kind of wish I got The Guest and The Witch because I love those
The
movies.
Guest
And
was amazing.
I kind of wish I did it, but I didn't.
I
And
watched
for
that on
whatever reason,
Netflix
fast.
back in 2014. I think when it first came out, I just loved it. Fell in love with it. So I was very excited when that came out. Also, It Follows was another one that I was super excited about, and that was a great release too. They
Mm-hmm.
do great features, but I get what you're saying because it's like you're spending $55 for these releases, and Vinegar Syndrome will do stuff like that, and they get a lot of crap too for overcharging, but you're going to pay about 15, $20 less.
Speaking
They
of
could.
55 bucks, though, my biggest physical media annoyance of last year was Severin releasing Cemetery Man because I want that movie. I really like that movie, but $55 I thought was just insane. But
I got it, and I regretted it.
they just announced standard editions, a standard edition 4K
Okay.
for 38 and a standard edition Blu-ray for 24. And I was like, okay, good. If I just held out long enough, I can get it. So
Now, will you
that's
get the
good.
4K or will you get the Blu-ray?
I've been going back and forth because at first I thought I was going to get the Blu-ray, but then Dr. Terror's House of Horrors, and I feel like I just want
But
to
you
move
know
this
what?
thing
I'm sure
around.
the Blu-ray's got a 4K scan, and it probably looks pretty good.
It probably does, and it's a $14 difference, which is pretty
Yeah.
significant, more
I just think that's
significant than
ridiculous
usual.
because it's going to be what $40 for the 4K with no slipcover.
Yeah,
I just think that's overcharging a little bit too much.
yeah. You talked me into it. I'm getting the Blu-ray.
I would get the Blu-ray, just get the Blu-ray. But when I watch the 4K, I'll let you know how it is and if it's
Oh,
worth
you haven't
getting
watched
or
it
not.
yet?
I haven't watched it. I jumped into the church first,
Mm-hmm.
and I liked that movie, but I didn't love it. But everybody
Yeah, I
was
don't love the
raving about
church either.
Cemetery Man, um, so I need to watch that one. I've
Cemetery Man's a
almost
messed up movie.
yeah, I've almost started it up so many times, but it's that kind of movie that has gotten so much hype that I feel like I really need to be locked into, and I just haven't
And
been
it'll
able to
probably
watch it.
draw you in. Just I would probably not let your wife near it.
No, I won't. I don't let her near most of the movies I watch from Severin and Vinegar
Yeah.
Syndrome, all of those labels. Except for Showgirls, I think is the only one we watched together for
I've
Vinegar
still never seen
Syndrome,
Showgirls.
and we reviewed it on our channel.
I think I watched
But
that review.
yeah, I
It's a
think it
good
was
time.
I think it's honestly like our highest like viewed video, or one of them that we've ever done on the channel.
That's so funny because you
And I was
focus
like,
the channel on new
we just need to
movies.
start watching erotic movies and reviewing them together. That needs to be our thing.
I remember when I found out my parents were going through this phase where they were watching erotic thrillers from the 80s and 90s, and I was like,
Yeah.
That's surprising.
We're almost to that point. I mean, I'll be 40 in a couple of years, so I'll be middle aged. And I feel like that's when most couples get to that point. Let's just start watching erotic thrillers.
Oh man.
Not to get weird, but anyway. Let's see. What are some wish list movies that you want to see come to 4K? Is there a movie? Let me ask you this because you talked about this being one of your annoyances. Is there a movie that you would be very excited to get a big box set 4K release of? Is there any movie that would do that for you?
I mean, even though I really have a nice edition of it, if they did release a big box with a bunch of stuff for Fright Night, I'd probably get it because Fright Night is my favorite movie.
Okay.
So I might do it for that. I'll tell you one. Horror of Dracula, the first Hammer Dracula film. It is, I want to see if I can find it. There we go. I mean, it's an incredible movie. It's one of the most important Dracula film classics ever made. And it just has a Warner Archive Blu-ray, no special features. And the transfer is fine, but it's not fantastic. And if they would release like, I don't know, I think Criterion could do it, or Vinegar Syndrome, or somebody like a really nice
It'd be
edition.
cool to see Criterion get into more of that type of stuff.
I mean, they could. I mean, it's certainly an important enough movie, I think. I mean, it's the first Hammer vampire movie, period. Yeah, so that would be a huge one for me, for sure. I really want that in 4K.
And is there anything else that you would like just a regular 4K of? Just something you want to see in 4K?
There's some I just want like on Blu-ray or on 4K in general. Like big one is Captain Blood. It's a 1930s pirate movie starring Errol Flynn that I grew up with when I was a kid, and it's phenomenal. And it's still just stuck on DVD, which I think is crazy. And that's
the only person that will ever say Captain Blood for that question.
Well, I'm sure it will get a release eventually. I'm sure it'll be through Warner Archive because Warner Archive's been releasing a lot of Errol Flynn movies, but it should be a Criterion because it's definitely an important enough movie, I think. Down with Love is a big one for me. It's a
I bought that DVD because of you. I think I mentioned
it's a terrible DVD, so I'm sorry. I have the DVD, but I bought it digitally so I could watch it looking decent.
It had a nice pink case.
It does.
Like, oh, that's cool.
It just looks really bad.
And then I think I just watched, I don't know what video you were talking about it in.
It was probably my favorite movies of the 2000s.
But yeah, then I saw it when I was out, and I was like, oh, I'm going to pick this up. Might be something
it's fantastic.
For my wife to watch or something.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite romantic comedies. And then A Wounded Fawn, that Shudder original, and Influencer, another Shudder original. I'd really like Blu-rays of those as well.
Cool. Yeah, I don't know if at this point it's like I don't know if some of these movies are going to get Blu-rays. So yeah, I don't necessarily want to collect DVDs, but if I'm out, I try to just buy DVDs of stuff that don't have Blu-rays.
Down with Love is Fox, so I'm not really expecting it.
Yeah, when I see the Fox on, I'm like, I'm just gonna go ahead and pick it up because that ain't gonna happen. I mean, maybe with the new Sony partnership, I don't know how that's gonna turn out, but I'm not as optimistic as some people. But
I mean, even if it goes great, when are they going to get around to Down with Love? It's probably going to.
I don't know. Like if they started doing some box sets like Columbia Classics or something, I could see them popping in the Down with Love,
True.
like in one of those box sets maybe. But you're going to be paying like $150, $170 for a box set to get Down with Love, and they're not going to release it individually.
Yeah, that's going to be hard for me
because that's how Sony rolls. Let's just put it in a box set, never release it standalone. They're supposed to be doing Taxi Driver soon, though.
That's cool.
All right, so we talked about streaming, but do you ever purchase anything streaming?
I used to sometimes, if like I really wanted to watch it and I was going to rent it, and it wasn't that much more to buy it. So I have a fairly substantial digital collection, but I've fallen off of it in recent years, particularly as my physical collection has grown and grown. So I haven't purchased anything streaming in a long time, but I used to. So I have Down with Love digitally because honestly, it looks way better than the DVD that way. I have Captain Blood digitally, but sorry, what?
It's on HD on the digital versions.
Yeah, and it's the right aspect ratio. The DVD is boxed.
Damn boxes.
Yeah, I don't remember what that's called. Letterboxed or something.
Full screen.
Yeah,
what it's called?
Yeah, it's full screen, but the digital version is widescreen and HD, and it looks great.
Yeah. All right. Why is physical media important to you? owning movies physically? You probably already answered this like 10 times, but it's on my agenda. So I'm going to ask it separately right now.
I'm just addicted to getting packages in the mail.
Same here. Great answer. Makes a lot of sense to me. As soon as you said that, I just related.
It's a good
Related
time. It's a
immediately.
good time.
Every morning, it's sad. It's really sad. But I wake up in the morning. I always take my dog out when I get up before I take my daughter to school, and I go out the back, down the deck, and I go around the house, and I always get a little feeling of excitement. As soon as I go around, am I going to see that package on the front porch? You know, sometimes it's there, and sometimes it's not.
It does remind, like when I
And
was
then
a
I go
little
check the
kid.
mailbox. Sometimes it's in there. You know?
That's a great time. When I was a little kid, I mean, I would order action figures online, like on eBay or something, because I was super into it. And I remember just like kind of waiting around for the mailman to come and like hoping, because there wasn't really like checking your tracking and stuff in those days. If there was, I didn't know about it as a kid.
Yeah.
So you just kind of wait and see if the mailman would bring it. And it was really exciting. And it is funny looking back and realizing that like I'm exactly the same now as I was when I was a little kid. It's just now directed at Blu-rays and 4Ks and instead of action figures in those days.
Yeah. It's our refusal to grow up. But you know what? Hopefully that'll keep us young.
Yeah, absolutely. Up. If we can grow up in like the important ways, we can stay little kids in other ways.
I think about my parents when I was a kid sometimes, and I'm just like, what did you guys do for fun? Like your lives would just seem so miserable now that I'm an adult. And it's like I'm just enjoying all these movies and stuff, and I never really. I mean, my dad got into a motorcycle phase when he was in his 40s, but that's pretty much it. What is your? Well, we'll start to wrap things up and close things up, Daniel. I appreciate your time tonight.
Oh, sure.
And like I said many times, guys, go subscribe to the Cobwebs channel. Great channel. One of my favorite channels, to be honest. You might be in the top 5, Daniel.
Jeez.
This might be in the top 5.
And I appreciate that.
Yeah, you just might.
I'm blushing.
What is your thoughts on the state of physical media? Is it healthy? Is it ending anytime soon?
I mean, it's the boring answer that everybody has, but I think it's true. I think it's just becoming a collector's market. Like I don't think. I mean,
I hear that a lot. I want something different. No, I'm
the state is good because people are addicted to mail, and they can order them and they'll come in the mail. No, I don't think very few people will collect movies like you and I do. And I think that's fine because people have their own weird interests and other people are interested in this weird thing and we're interested in this, and that's totally fine. And I think a lot of people, I think they want entertainment, but they don't care that much what it is. So like whatever it is on streaming is fine. Like I think of my in-laws, they have DirecTV. They just kind of watch whatever's on DirecTV. They don't care that much what it is, you know? Like they're not like curating their watch time, which, you know, you and I are like heavily curating what it is that we watch, and we care a lot about that. A lot of people don't. So they're not going to collect physical media because they don't care that much, and that's fine. But it does seem like it's very much becoming about collecting even more than just having access to movies. Because the practical reason that people used to have movies, which was to get access to movies, that's a lot lower now. I mean, I think streaming is a much inferior experience for a lot of reasons, and you and I know what those reasons are, but people don't need it they don't need the practical reason as much. So it kind of becomes about a hobby, whereas it didn't used to as much be a hobby, but now it's a hobby. And I think that's okay. I think the way it is now is probably going to continue for quite a while. I don't really see it. There's so many movies to release on 4K, and these boutique labels will keep doing it, and I think it's going to be okay.
Yeah, as long as we're around to keep them in business. I mean, I do worry about, you know, future generations as well. To be honest, I'm more worried about the future of movies themselves.
Yeah,
than I am physical media, because of the rise of social media and TikTokers and YouTubers and just so many different types of content to watch and enjoy. I feel like it's not going to go away, but I feel like movies themselves could be niche at one point.
It could be. And some actors have said, I think Natalie Portman said that fairly recently, that she thinks movies are niche now. I don't know that I totally agree.
They are now.
Yeah, I don't really agree because there's still, it seems like the movie business is changing a lot, like right now, like in the last year for the better. Because for a while it was just like throw out whatever blockbuster. If it's based on a comic book or it's a remake,
I
it'll make
actually
money.
got
That's all we
Natalie
need.
Portman on the TV back there,
There you go.
just so
Hello,
you know.
Natalie. Thank you for dropping by. But now it seems like there are weirder things that are popping. You know, Barbie, Oppenheimer, the Dune is huge all of a sudden. And it does seem like audiences are more interested in something a little more off the beaten path than they were
Yeah,
even like 2 years ago, which is
yeah.
kind of promising. And it seems like young
Marvel ain't
people,
hot no more.
no, they're certainly not. It's like the most popular thing on the internet to bash on them now. I've noticed it almost makes me want to defend them just to be a contrarian. But it does seem like young movie fans, like my age and younger, like Gen Z, they're really into like the A24 kind of stuff. And they're really
Yeah,
interested in like Dune and stuff. Like they want
yeah.
the more intellectual thing, which is interesting and could be a good thing in the long run.
It could be. Yeah, that's definitely a great point. People are looking for those different movie experiences, it feels like. And the
Yeah, I
stuff
think
that
so.
the studios are like putting all their money into, and they're like, this is a surefire bet, this is gonna take off and it's gonna make a ton of money. Those are the ones that are bombing. And
All right,
people not
question. Is Deadpool 3 going to bomb?
I I don't think it's not gonna bomb.
I don't think
Is it
so
gonna
either.
make $1 billion? I don't know. I don't know, but I mean, it's a tough question to ask. I think that the state of superhero movies is definitely taken a big hit over the past couple of years, but I don't think that people see Deadpool as a regular superhero movie. I think they
Yeah,
see
that's
it as
true.
something different and something more.
It's a good point.
So
I almost feel like the future superhero movies is riding on Deadpool 3. And if it does well, it's going to continue. And if it doesn't do well, it's like dead. Of course, Craven the Hunter will make $1 billion for sure. So
probably, I'm really curious about what Joker 2 is gonna make. I love that trailer,
I do too. I did
and
not like the first Joker at all. And I watched the
you
trailer and I was
didn't.
like,
I
holy
didn't love the
cow.
first Joker, but I liked it a lot. I liked it a lot. But I love the fact that it's gonna be a musical. And I just love the look of it and the tone of it, and I don't know. I'm thinking this one's going to be pretty big. I don't know if it's going to make $1 billion, but I think it might surprise people because of what we just talked about with it
Yeah,
looking and being so different, and that's what people are looking for right now.
I think it's a
So
good
I
point.
could see that Dune crowd going to see Joker 2.
100%. Yeah,
But
for sure.
I don't know. Deadpool 3 is interesting that you bring that up because it's rated R, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're not going to get the families in there necessarily. And
Probably not.
I mean the first Deadpool and the second didn't make $1 billion.
The first
So
one did actually.
oh, did it?
I think it was the first $1 billion R-rated movie. I think it was like the first
Okay,
R-rated movie to beat Passion
I'll
of the
take your word
Christ.
for it. Um, yeah, that's interesting. I don't know. I don't think it's gonna bomb though. Whether or not it's gonna make $1 billion, I have no idea. But um, let's see. Well, Daniel, that's pretty much all I have for you, man. Do you have anything for me? You have any questions for me?
Oh
I'm just
gosh.
flipping the script.
Uh,
No,
I was
I
gonna
got one
ask.
more question for you. I got one
Oh
more.
yeah, go for it.
What is your favorite box set in your collection?
I mean, ultimately, it is the Universal Monsters box set because it's got all 30, and so that's extremely important to me. At least my favorite New Discovery box set is the Indicator Mexico Macabre box set. This
Nice.
was an box set experience where like I binged through the movie so fast and just loved every minute of it. It's 4 Mexican horror films. And I bought it like on a whim because I found it at a store for $30, which is crazy low for an Indicator box set.
Yeah.
But yes, it's 4 Mexican horror films from 1959 to 1963, and they're so good. Like honestly, they're so much better than the Italian Gothic horror films from that period. Like
Really?
they're really, really good.
I
Because
haven't
like
watched a lot of the Mexican horror films.
I had neither. This was my first experience with them. And like, you know, a lot of the Italian Gothic horror films from that period, they rely a lot on atmosphere. And like these movies have the atmosphere, but they're also like they have great scripts and like really interesting characters and interesting
Okay.
plots. And that's I'm not used to that, you know, for this kind of a movie.
Now you're
So
making
that
me
was
feel
a
like I need to pick
huge.
that up.
I've heard, yeah, I mean, I would definitely recommend it. And I heard Indicator is working on a volume 2, and that's going to be a day one purchase for me for sure if they do it.
Okay. All right. Good picks. Good
I feel like
picks.
I got very passionate there.
You
Calm down a
did.
little bit.
I could feel it over here for sure. But Daniel, man, I appreciate you so much coming on here and talking to me. I feel like this was a long time coming. I feel like I asked you last year, and you had did you say you had your appendix removed? I think
I did.
is what I
Yeah, end
remember.
of September, end of my boom month
And then
on
I
the
was just
channel.
like,
I got my
if I
appendix
can't
removed.
get Daniel on the channel, then I'm just done with this entire series. I just quit after that. No, I had a lot of stuff come up last fall, and it's just been a struggle to get back to this point. But this is the interview with the Cobwebs channel. Thank you so much, Daniel, for coming on. If you can, promote yourself and tell everybody what you're all about one more time, and I'll get you the hell out of here.
Yeah, it's a Cobwebs channel on YouTube. I'd say ultimately it's probably like a horror film history channel, but often through the lens of physical media. Yeah, we talk about a lot of old retro horror movies, all the way from like 80s slashers to 1930s monster movies and such. And we have a good time. So check it out.
Awesome. Yeah. Everybody check it out. I will link your channel down below. I'll link your Instagram, your X, your letterbox, your TikTok, everything. Are you
My
on Threads?
OnlyFans.
Your OnlyFans? Are you on Threads yet? You on Threads
No.
as well? Nobody's on Threads, I don't think. But Daniel, thank you so much again for coming on. I appreciate everybody watching. Drop a like on this stream. I feel like we covered some controversial stuff, so I'll probably get a good number of dislikes as well. But make sure you comment. If you dislike, guys, the only thing I ask is comment why you're disliking. Okay.
Steelbooks.
Some more engagements. All right. Yes, I went all in this episode on my hatred towards Steelbooks. I'm turning over a new leaf. But thank you all for watching. Like, comment, subscribe to this channel, to Daniel's channel, of course, and we will see you guys later.